Welcome back to another edition of the Rodcast. A lot to get into on the show today, of course. We'll be reviewing the NBA draft, first round of the NBA draft. We'll get into that. Coach Slosh, the new baseball coach on the 40 Acres, was introduced yesterday because my man Patrick's working so hard. We got some audio of Coach Slosh that we'll get into on the show. We'll get into that momentarily, actually. We'll also hear from Steve Sarkisian. He was on with Greg McElroy on his Always College Football podcast. So we'll hear from Sark talking about the quarterbacks, talking about the DBs a little bit, wide receivers. We'll get into that too coming up a little bit later on in the show. We also go behind the burnt orange curtain next segment. We'll talk about a new element in the game, actually something that's not in the game, the EA Sports new college football game that I think Longhorn fans actually may be a little upset about. Strangely enough, ironically, I think they're upset about this. We'll talk about that too coming up a little bit later on in the show. We'll also get into some other NFL news, notes, and nuggets. We got Raj Rants coming up on the show as well. We'll also get to your usual favorites. We got what the facts, what the stats, topic for the big fat poll of the day, off the record, and who said that. So we're loaded as usual. Before we get into any of that, let me introduce you to the rest of the crew because he's one of the hardest working members of the ARN family. He's got a hustler spirit, period. Not sure what he's paid, but I'm pretty damn sure the man is underpaid. Ain't no 401k for this hustler, and he's a hustle man of many talents. It's our friend, co-host, and neighbor. It's Patrick Davis, y'all. What's going on, Patrick? How you doing, brother?
I'm doing good, doing good. Watched some NBA draft last night. It wasn't too eventful, not too crazy of a draft. We got the action beforehand, but good draft to watch there. Cut up some press conference, ready to go on a Thursday for you.
Yes, sir.
Let me introduce my co-host. He is a proud alumni of DBU. He's got more papers than Dunder Mifflin and watches more film than Siskel and Ebert. He is the new Rod Father of Austin Sports Radio, Mr. Rod Babers.
I appreciate that intro as always. Yeah, of course, my man Patrick will give us his thoughts on the NBA draft. I can't wait to hear that. So we'll talk about the Rockets and the Spurs. Spurs trading out of one of their first round picks. We'll get into that too, or at least trading one of their first round picks. We'll get into that. We'll also talk about, like I said, a little bit later on, we'll get to that Sark audio, so we will get into some college football. If we can't get it all in, maybe I'll cram one of them into the burnt orange curtain segment, and then we'll get into the rest of it maybe next hour. So if you want to talk some college football, we'll do that. Of course, Texas baseball is top of mind, and as the big story coming off of the last 72 hours or so, it has been crazy. And I've been asking around, Patrick, and I asked a few people, who are just who are very active, engaging on social media. You and I, we observe. I like
mostly observing. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, KD always said, he said basically Twitter's a wall. He said you can sit there and look at it, and some people like to get in there and they write their own stuff on there. It's like I will admit I would always read the stuff on the bathroom wall, but I never wrote anything on the bathroom wall. But some people want to, and you know what? Good for you. It's creative, and while I'm sitting there going to the bathroom, I got something to engage me. And so I love the way my man Katie used to always put it. And so I asked a question to a few people who are really into social media. And I know man CB will probably give his thoughts on this too. I don't think there's been a more engaging 48 hours or 24 hours, whichever way you want to say it. I don't think there's been a more engaging topic or subject matter than what has transpired over the last 72 hours or so with Schloss going from Texas A&M to Texas. I don't think you've seen Longhorn fans this adamant, this active, this engaged on social media for any other topic. Arch Manning was close.
Yeah.
Arch Madness was in that. It was. I remember that was crazy. That was wild. Like that was national too. This is a national thing. Texas going to the SEC, also one of those. I think where everybody was really engaged and active. But I don't know if it hit this fever pitch. I don't know if it hit the fever pitch that it has now. Even JJ Watt remarked, he was like, "Why is my timeline all Texas A&M?" Like it's one of those stories now that it's. And by the way, it won't end because then now you have the players in the transfer portal.
Yes.
That are also, there are 7 reports of 7 to 11 players from A&M that are currently in the portal now. And some of them expected to matriculate over to the Longhorns roster. So it ain't over. So it's just a lot of buzz. And I was talking to some fans and they're like, oh no, we haven't seen this much buzz on Longhorn Twitter in for any other topic, maybe ever. You might hear.
No, I don't think. And part of it is, I think, because there's such a response back.
Yes, just somebody to engage with. Great point. Yeah.
Is that a lot of times, like
true.
Arch Manning, everyone was happy, but then the people that were upset about it and didn't get him weren't necessarily fighting back on it as hard.
Yeah.
It wasn't such a slight to them that they felt they needed to express their side too. And so it has been very much, two groups yelling at each other.
Boom, boom,
so
boom,
it's
boom,
it's
boom.
back and forth.
Oh man, it's been It's like I said, I've been observing. It's been pretty wild. It's dying down a little bit now. As I said, I think it hit right before the Challenge World Series game when Coach Pierce was fired, and then from then on, it's just been kind of a firestorm on social media.
Well, yeah, that was also a bunch of people said things on Monday, but especially Aggies said things on Monday that then looked really stupid on Tuesday.
Yeah, because the receipts, Longhorn fans kept the receipts.
Yes.
So they threw that back at him. And then now it's just been boom. And then now the vitriol is directed at, Coach Slosh, and they're indicting his character and stuff like that and all this. And then now conspiracy theories being thrown out there. Oh, it's wild. It's wild. It's good stuff though. And I mean, it's like I said, I don't know if you've seen a time with Longhorn Twitter it's been this hype. And they're on the winning end of it too. So I will say
I can tell you, I don't know if it's ever happened during summer.
Yeah, that's exactly your point. This is supposed to be the dead period of sports, right?
Yeah, they're not even, we're not even main semester of class right now, and it's still happening.
It's gonna be wild. It's gonna be wild. Anyway, so we'll get to hearing from Coach Slosh. Also, I'm going to get to my man's Patrick thoughts about this NBA draft. A lot of people called it a really weak NBA draft. So how would teams approach it? That would be interesting because you didn't have a lot of top end talent, and you didn't have a lot. It's not a robust draft. With a ton of talent. So what were your thoughts initially? We'll get into the Spurs and we'll get into the Rockets. Mavs didn't have a pick, and they won't have a pick until the end of the second round.
Yeah, they have the last pick of the draft is the Mavs pick.
Yeah, sorry, Mavs. We're not ignoring you. We talked a lot of Mavs, by the way. We talked a ton of Mavs.
And again, in the second round, we'll see. We could see. We won't necessarily see, but we could see teams move around a little bit more. We could see a team that needs some more talent but doesn't necessarily have the cap room. Trade a future first for 2 seconds or something to that effect, or add some more picks. I think we saw one of those last night. Phoenix traded back to a later first round pick and then got a second, and then two future seconds. So you see though, you may see a couple of those types of things. So the Mavs could, if they want to, grab another second round pick for a team that doesn't necessarily want to carry another guy on the roster right now, because there's a lot of teams that have multiple second round picks. But in reality, it didn't go too far off the rails of what we thought it was going to be. There wasn't really that many surprise picks. Ron Holland at 5 was probably one of your bigger surprise picks. I did see the thing, AJ Johnson at 23, which, by the way, that is 2 first-round picks, 2 top 25 picks that the Longhorns missed out on last year. Those are both guys that were recruited to Texas and then walked away to go not play college ball. Ron Holland went to the G League Ignite, and AJ Johnson played in Australia last year. So it was 2 top 25 picks that they had. And I know in a weak draft, but still say 2 top 25 picks.
3 guys, right, that either were that committed at one time or transferred. Ended up being drafted in the first round. Jalen Tyson is in that group too.
Yes. Right? And so there was some good players in that draft that you thought you could use last season. But Ron Holland going 5 was probably one of the biggest. He was a guy that his draft stock was so all over the place, where people just didn't know where he was going to end up. And a lot of people were very high on him, but a lot of people thought that it may be basically guys like him. There's a theory that they're so big so early that you can't really judge anything of high school.
Because they peaked.
Because they just were so much more physically dominant at that age.
I got you.
That it's possible that, maybe they're just playing bully ball and getting whatever they want. So if they're not a pure shooter and they're scoring at the rim, can they be able to do that when they meet up with bodies that are bigger than theirs and meet up with guys that can play at their level? And so there is a little bit of worry like that. He was the best player on the G League Ignite, but the G League Ignite was really bad this year. That's one of the reasons why he got shut down. Was the team was just overall really bad. So that was probably your biggest surprise of it. But other than that, it kind of everybody fell into where they were supposed to fall into. We didn't see too much. Later on you saw a little bit more where guys, especially teams were in that world of, are we going to take somebody that we think is ready to go and play right now, but in a weak draft? I don't think people really felt that anybody was going to be a huge addition right away. So that's why you saw like a guy like Dalton Knecht from Tennessee fall to the Lakers at 17. He's 23 years old. It feels like he's closer to his potential already. So you kind of already know what you're going to get. And so he fell further because a lot of these guys want to draft guys with potential in a draft where you don't know what's there. You know what the limitations of a Dalton Knecht, but it's also a draft of everybody in it, and you'll see it even more now. But even the top picks, everyone had a fatal flaw. Yeah. And so there wasn't anyone you could take and say, that guy's a 5-tool player. That guy's got everything he needs. You had to pick guys and understand this is what we have to work on. This is where we're hoping it progresses. But overall, I mean, it was a pretty good first round. We saw some good picks. We saw some questionable ones. Always fun when Knicks fans are upset at the draft where they get so excited. And Knicks fans have no reason to be upset. They traded for Mikal Bridges, so they should be thrilled about that. OJ Anunoby re-signed as well. So now they've got that core put together. They're going to have to lose Hartenstein because of that, probably because they don't have the money anymore. So that's why they had to make a trade back at one point. You see this with the new salary cap, that there's all the little parts of trading back in the draft, and that's, we can get into the Spurs here in a minute, but where people are much more thinking about the salary cap right now than I think they have before, where you weren't as worried about going over the cap. You weren't as worried about the repercussions of hitting that second apron. You were okay with the first apron, but now you're really, really worried about that second apron of penalties. And so that's where the Knicks traded back to save like $200,000. And that keeps them in a place where now they have $6 million they could spend on other players to try and fill out their roster. But just little stuff like that, you see a little bit more, and you can see a little bit in the second round too, where second round contracts are, you put them on 2 ways and stuff like that. So they're not as bad contractually and salary cap wise.
Yeah, no, yeah, it's interesting, the way teams are approaching this draft. It'll be interesting to see how they approach the second round. And of course, there's the Bronny James discussion, which I think will dominate the second round. Where will he go? Will he go anywhere other than the Lakers is basically the question.
Yeah, like, will somebody else take a flyer on him?
That's the real question. Like, really, because the Lakers take him. It's like, well, that's been expected. Everybody thought it was going to happen. Okay, so that's no big deal. If another team takes him, then it's like, whoa.
Well, I think there is the narrative.
And what's your motive? Are you taking it for him as a prospect, or are you taking it because you think you got a shot at daddy?
The narrative that's really fun is if he makes it to 55 and the Lakers don't take him.
Also, also very interesting. Yes, great point. Great was like, whoa, yes. So I agree with you. That's basically
which I don't think would happen, but that is a narrative you can watch. Point. That if they call somebody else's name, or the Lakers trade the pick or something to that effect, you would.
If that happens, man, then the speculation will be LeBron's not gonna re-sign with the Lakers. Then
yes,
it'd be like, well, no, because did he agree with that move? And we get into this all the time. We talk about it. You got to do the courtesy of calling your star when you do something crazy like they like. Hey, LeBron, just so you know, man, we're not going to draft Bron.
And pick 55 in a weak draft. And it's weak, but it is deep of like guys who are okay players that can fill into roles. And you figure can give you 5 to 10 minutes in games if you need them to. It does have more of those guys than sometimes you get into the second round and it's all guys you've never, ever heard of. And, guys that are just simply overseas players and guys that are built completely on potential. You'll see a little bit more of college players that we see, like a Harrison Ingram's a perfect example from North Carolina. You can see what he is. He's a decent player. But you just know what his ceiling is. And his ceiling is, at best, he'll be, cracking an 8-man rotation is kind of where you see his ceiling. But for a 82-game season, you can put a guy like that and see where we can have him. And he'll be able to crack your 10-man rotation probably within the first year. So if you can say this guy can come in and play some minutes for us right away, but we don't know if he's ever really going to be part of a championship rotation. Though that's where you get a lot of the guys in the second round. And Bronny, if I think at that point for the Lakers, who are you taking that is really going to make any more of a difference for your team than taking Bronny? So it would be very surprising if they didn't.
Yeah, might as well make history and headlines.
Might as well not piss off LeBron James.
And then you're right. That would be way more compelling but still, if somebody else takes him, also compelling. So we'll see if there's drama surrounding. Well, there will be. We'll see what the drama is surrounding Bronny James. All right, let's get updated, informed, and educated on all the top stories of the day first with the Horn headlines. Then we'll come back and we'll hear from Coach Slosh. And if we don't have enough time to play, because there's a lot of good stuff here, we'll just we'll turn behind the burn orange curtain into half of a Coach Slosh segment too, and we'll play some more of that audio because it's really, really good stuff. I want you guys to, if you didn't get a chance to check it out, I want you to hear most of it. But first, let's get updated on all the top stories of the day with Patrick Davis in the Horn headlines.
All right, your Horn headlines brought to you by Top Gun Rentals and Lawn Equipment. In the NBA, round one of the draft commenced last night with two French players taking the top spots, with Zachary Risache going number 1 to the Hawks and Alex Sarr going number 2 to the Wizards. The Rockets used their number 3 pick to take Kentucky freshman Reed Shepherd, who is thought to be the best shooter in the draft. And the Spurs added UConn guard Stephon Castle at the number 4 pick and traded the number 8 pick, who became Rob Dillingham, to Minnesota for a 2031 unprotected first-round pick in a 2030 pick swap. In Major League Baseball, the Astros extended their win streak to 7 games with a 7-1 win over the Rockies. The win gets the Astros to an even 500 record for the first time this season and puts them 4.5 games behind Seattle in the AL West. Spencer Arrighetti pitched 7 innings, striking out 10 to get the win behind plenty of run support, with Altuve and Diaz adding 2 RBIs each. The Astros now head to New York to take on the Mets starting Friday, and the Rangers dropped another game to the Brewers 6-5 after a Montecero walk-off hit in the 10th inning. Nate Lowe had 3 RBIs in the game, but struck out in the top of the 10th, allowing the Brewers to pick up the win and sweep in the series. John Gray, who had a commanding start in his last outing, takes the mound for the Rangers tonight as they begin a 4-game series with the Orioles, and that is your Horn headlines.
All right, thank you, Patrick, for the Horn headlines. Coach Schlossnagle he and his staff were introduced yesterday to the Austin media, and I should say to the Texas media, because there were some Aggies there too. So they were introduced he was introduced to the media, and I thought he did a good job. I mean, he addressed a lot of sensitive, difficult topics about the timeline, about players, did he speak to his old team? And we'll get to all of that as well. But it seemed like to me, if you want to ask me whether he won the press conference or not, or won the media availability, I think he did. And he didn't have to do much because everybody was just so excited about it, and everybody is so ecstatic about this move, and everybody's really complimentary of CDC and how he did it. And we'll get to CDC too, because he always has an anecdote about these coaching searches. Something he throws in there, it's always random, and honestly, it's sometimes just shows you kind of how devious CDC can be. The anecdote for this particular coaching search was that he bought time and hid in a graveyard, basically, down in Aggieland. Because he figured if he was anywhere down there and some random person saw him, there's a good chance if they're an Aggie fan, they know how at least CDC looks, and like that. And he might look out of place anyway, let's be honest.
Yeah.
And it's like, who's that dude? Might get a picture of him, something like that, and then it could blow this whole thing wide open and look really crazy. So he said he went down to Aggieland and he basically sat and hid in a graveyard. I don't know if he was hiding, but he waited in a graveyard, I should say, because he figured nobody in the graveyard is going to know me. And if if anybody sees me, they'll try not to even look at me. It's a graveyard. I mean, you don't stare at people in the graveyard. You try to avoid people in the graveyard.
You try to look down. Yeah.
Right? It's a very solemn place. So you're just looking away, and it's like, you don't even speak to anybody in the graveyard. You try to avoid eye contact. No, I know what you're up to. I know what you're doing. Hey, I'm going to respect you and your time. I get it. And I'm going to do the same. And so it was a smart move.
I don't know.
Really
I think it is somewhat risky to it's
Really?
somewhat risky because they don't really have to transport your body far if they kill you. Just ready to go.
I will say that maybe he was there. Maybe it was something symbolic that he was also celebrating the death of Aggie baseball for the time being. And maybe that was it. But you're right. I mean, I thought it was pretty cool. I'm sure Longhorn. And he tweeted out a picture of him at the graveyard. Like, he tweeted that out after the press conference. He had a picture of it. So he's trolling too. That's what I like about CDC. He's proved that he's a master troller. Yes. Well done, sir. Well done. And the young generation, they love people that know how to troll. I mean, that's why they love Drake. Drake is great at trolling other artists, and he does it via all these memes and stuff on social media. Very these inside joke kind of things, and most people don't really get it. If you're old, you don't get it. And CDC, I will admit, he's pretty damn good at trolling and posting that picture of him at the graveyard. But getting back to Coach Slosh. When you're, he and Coach Slosh, I'm sure knows this. I'm sure somebody's told it at one point. And anybody who's had public speaking, any public speaking class or somebody talking public speaking, they'll tell you number one thing, right? Know your audience. Know who you're talking to. Like, that's the number one thing. Like know who you're talking to, so you'll know exactly how some of these jokes or comments are going to go over. And I would say that's what Slosh. That's why I think he won the press conference, because he definitely knew his audience. The Augie story, the Augie Garrido story, gold. That captured the hearts right there of Longhorn fans. That was it. It was like, oh, this dude had an Augie Garrido story in his pocket, ready to go. Well done, sir. Well done. Good for you. It just bro. Can we hear the Augie Garrido story, please, man? It was that's what I was like. Oh, he knows his audience. He knows his. I don't know if CDC told him, hey, you got a good Augie story now, because I'm telling you, it's money. That's like a DKR story. You got a DKR story, Augie story. I think I want to say Tom Herman went back on that. When he came, he had one of those stories to Mac Brown, like DK. I was like, oh man, you got one of them. That's money. And so here is the Augie Garrido story that Schloss tells, and I think this is what won the audience.
Yeah, so Augie, let me address the first one first. Augie, I can't remember the year, 15 or 16 maybe. We played in Fort Worth, and the game ended, and I had always wanted to be close to Augie and learn more about him, but I didn't play for him or work for him. And he pulled me to the side during a rain delay and said, I want you to come see me this summer. And so during recruiting season, I was in California. I flew to Orange County Airport. Augie picked me up. We had a great dinner, as he loved great food and drink. And we had a long conversation about his future and what it was like to be the baseball coach at Texas. And I'll never say that there was any place that's ever been my dream job. I've loved every single place that I've ever been. As an assistant coach, to be real frank with you, my dream job was to be the coach at TCU, because that was the program that I felt like needed or had the most space to grow. I'm from Western Maryland. I never envisioned that I would get to be the coach at Texas A&M or the University of Texas. I only ever saw those things on TV.
That's Coach Schloss. Love that. Love the Augie story. And speaking of knowing his audience, here's Coach Schloss talking about the opening message to the players. Just kind of his message to the players here at his first press conference as a Longhorns baseball coach.
To the former players at the University of Texas, this is your program. The program belongs to you. You are always welcome. Many I've known from across the field during my time at TCU and Texas A&M. Cody Clemens killing me. I've only missed a baseball game 2 times in my life for my children, my son Jackson and my daughter Katie. Just a quick story. And so one of the games I missed was my son's graduation, TCU at Texas. I have the game on my phone, trying to be quiet. We're up a run in the 9th. Augie Milbauer's pitching, and Cody hits a walk-off homer. That was a tough day. But the program belongs to the former players. And to the current and future players, the program belongs to you as well. My job is to steward this program. One thing Augie said to me one day is, if you decide to ever come to Texas, this will never be your program. And I've never felt that TCU, UNLV, Texas A&M was ever my program. My program is Elon. It's in North Carolina. And that's my school. My job is to steward this program and oversee this program and continue to grow this program to a championship level on a daily basis. So to the current players and the future players, that's what we'll be doing.
Know your audience. Man broke out a Cody Clemens story too.
Yep.
and then had another Augie reference in there. Know your audience. He knows. It's like, man, boom, boom. You're like, okay, man, the guy feels like family already. He's already making references to the family. And I've always said this. You guys know I've been saying this for 10 years on the radio. All right. None of the programs don't belong to the head coaches. They're caretakers.
Yeah.
If you pay them more money to throw up your hand symbol somewhere else, they would do it. That's just the reality of it. Mac Brown was somewhere else before Texas, somewhere else after Texas. All right. That's how it works for most coaches. They are, say what you want, but they are still mercenaries. They're caretakers of the program. The program belongs to the fans and to the student athletes. It belongs to the players and it belongs to the fans. That's who the program belongs to. Even CDC, God bless him. We love him. Athletic director. The programs don't belong to him. He's a caretaker. He's there to do a job. The program doesn't belong to him. He was a horned frog before this. And guys, I promise you, at one point, he probably is going to retire at Texas, but he's got other allegiances. I'm only a Longhorn. That's it. Never been anything else. After that, I was a New York Giant, a Detroit Lion, but on this level, always a Longhorn. That's it. When you're a fan, you're just a Longhorn. All right. And those guys are paid for their loyalty. Fans and players. Well, now players are. It's a little different. So I got to switch it up. But as a fan, you're not paid for your loyalty. You pay money to show loyalty. They're paid for loyalty. Very big difference. Mm-hmm. And I'm glad that he understands that. And Augie knew it. Like, no, don't belong to us, man. Even though I'm a legend here, statues of me here still don't belong to me.
Yep.
I'm celebrated. The programs belong to the players and the fans. If you have that attitude as a caretaker of the program, you're going to be in a good spot. Mac knew it too. Mac always, he echoed the same thing, like, it don't belong to me. I'm just trying to make sure I do right by the players and the fans because it's their program. All right. Love that part. Know your audience. He's dropping them in there. Can we get the message to the fans? Speaking of knowing your audience, part of his message there was to the fans openly. Here is Coach Schloss.
Lastly, to the Longhorn fans, we need you. Please know that this is not a job for me. This is a lifestyle. I don't play golf. I don't hunt or go fish every now and then when you get a free day, but I don't have many hobbies. My hobbies are to be around our players and to help them get better. And our job is to fill Dish Falk. We need it to become one of the elite atmospheres in the SEC, not just on the SEC weekends, but every single night. So thank you. Appreciate the opportunity to be here. Super excited to get to work. Hook 'em.
All right. So knows his audience. That was good. So I think he won the press conference. But even more so, what made him human at the press conference was I think he acknowledged that there were mistakes in the exit strategy and the way he left. I mean, I'm glad he acknowledged that. That says a lot. Because, we said yes. It's like, okay, well, obviously that was it could have been done a different way, possibly. Especially with CDC and him, twisting in the knife, and then the timeline in which the David Pierce thing had happened. Hey, we're happy about it. It's trolling, but for him, he's personally connected to these guys. Like these are guys he considered to be family, and still does. So first, and even the way he addressed the reporter. Remember, that's a big deal. Like, oh man, look, if he knew he was leaving, he shouldn't have addressed that reporter like that. He shouldn't have had that kind of response to the reporter and called him selfish. First cut. And he did this early on in the press conference. He apologized for the way he treated that reporter. Here is Coach Schloss.
OB, I'm glad you're here. I was asked a question after our game the other night. We're playing for the national championship. And as I said in my press conference when I took the A&M job, there would never be a time that I wasn't invested in that program. And there never was a time I wasn't invested. I gave when I say our staff, we gave everything we possibly could to win that last ball game. And when the game ended, I want to publicly apologize to Richard Zane from TexAgs. He's a young reporter. He asked the question. That was an obvious question. I wish I could have answered that better. But in the moment, 30 minutes after the last pitch, all I could think about was our players. And I really wasn't in the mood to talk about myself or the future. So I apologize for that to Richard.
All right. There you go. So he apologized to the reporter. And he also, and we'll get into this on the other side, had a response to just at the Aggies in general. And he discussed the timeline. He gave us some details on the timeline and also some details on really why he had to, why he was unable, I should say, to speak to his players personally, because that also came up. Remember, I asked that question yesterday. I was like, "What if you got to talk to the team?
Yeah.
What if you got a chance to talk to him?" We know details about why that didn't happen. Well, on a like to all of them, he did speak to some of the guys, and he did say that, but he couldn't speak to them like in a team meeting set. There's a reason for that as well. So we'll get to that. Okay, so we'll play that on the other side. Some more Schloss's press conference. Also, there's a Steve Sarkisian piece of audio I think we're going to play as well. So we're going to split up behind the Burn Orange curtain, make it a Schloss/Sark. Ooh, say that 5 times fast. Schloss/Sark behind the Burnt Orange curtain segment. We come back right here on the Rodcast. Featuring Patrick Davis on Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Babers coming back on the horn. Hey, what's up, folks? Lifetime Longhorn, Rod Babers here. Yes, the traffic in Austin is pretty dreadful. I know people hate it, but it also means that people keep moving to Austin. That's what makes the traffic so bad here in Austin. That's because the city is growing and the city is thriving, just like our friends over at Ironworkers Local Union 482. Many of the iconic landmarks in this city that also keep attracting folks to the city are actually built and constructed by the skilled craftsmanship of Ironworkers Local Union 482, like the Pennybacker Bridge and our beloved DKR Stadium. The folks over at Ironworkers Local 482 don't just go to the office, they build it. So if you're looking for an exciting employment opportunity or you want a refreshing career change, you can become a member of Ironworkers Local 482. And right now it's the perfect time to do it. They're hiring over 3,000 people for a huge project right here in Central Texas. They're offering competitive wages, competitive benefits, a pension plan. They even offer training for unskilled labor through their apprenticeship program. Become a member of Ironworkers Local 482, and you'll take pride in the type of teamwork and craftsmanship that help shape the future of our great city. So go online and apply today at ironworkers482.org. That's ironworkers482.org. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Time to get into some Texas baseball and football conversation. The Schloss/Sark segment we're going to get into. We'll hear from both. Let's hear from Schloss yesterday when he was asked about the response that he had in the postgame after the championship game against Tennessee after their loss, about whether or not there was any merit to the story about Texas and the vacancy with Coach Pearson, whether he would be interested or not. He apologized to the reporter, as we know, Richard Zane. We heard that earlier in the show, and that was earlier in this press conference. But then later, he's asked about what his what are Aggies basically, Aggie fans, how are they supposed to process what he said then, and then now him becoming the head coach at the University of Texas. Here is the response by Coach Losh.
Well, I didn't intentionally mislead them. And that's a very fair question for you to ask, because that is what I said. In that moment, that's exactly how I felt. At 50 years old, you got to understand, and Chris would probably back me up on this, I love TCU. My children grew up there, Fort Worth. I was there 18 years, and it had to be a very unique situation for me to leave that at 50 years old. I love Coach Garrido, but I hope I get to coach here for a long time, but I don't really have any plans on coaching to 75, 78 years old. So I made that choice because it aligned both personally and professionally with what I had going on at the time. And I loved it. And I dove in with every single ounce of me to help A&M have the very best baseball program it can possibly have. And that investment lasted through the last pitch of the national championship game. It never wavered, not 1 second. I don't care what anybody says. As Chris likes to say, we have jobs and try to run a business on other people's passion. And if I had left Texas A&M for some other school in a different part of the country, the interesting text messages and messages that I got yesterday probably wouldn't have happened. But I get it. You can't ask for your fan base to support you and be passionate like the 12th man always has been, but really was this year. Our crowds were awesome. Awesome. Every single game. And so you can't ask for that like I did and our staff did, and then expect everybody to be okay with a coach leaving for its rival school. And I get it. All I can say is I have a career too. I have a personal life as well. That I have goals, and I just simply felt like no negative at A&M, just the positives of the alignment, and frankly, my relationship with Chris. That I knew there wasn't anybody at Texas A&M that I couldn't trust. I just know that I can trust Chris. I just know that. And as hard as that decision was, I could not walk away from it.
Man, honestly, the crazy thing is I've made a similar decision as a recruit, but in my last two schools were A&M and Texas. At the time, A&M was a better football program because they had just won the Big 12 in 1998. Wrecking Crew was there. R.C. Slocum was a hell of a coach. Mac Brown was kind of this new, brash, cocky guy. And I looked at both of them and said, no, A&M may be a better program now, but I think for me personally, Texas was going to be a better program. And I think that's kind of Slosh. That's what he's saying. He said, no, for me, this is a better situation because of my friendship with CDC, but also there's more upside for me as a coach and for my, whatever team I'm going to construct, more upside at Texas than at Texas A&M.
Yeah.
And like I said, Texas A&M right now is a premier baseball program, and he helped build that, and he's leaving that and saying, no, I think he's saying it literally. I got more upside at Texas. That's
and when he uses the phrase alignment, he mentioned it a few times. The alignment he's talking about is the alignment between coach, athletic director, and president of the school. Yep. Basically, everything in the Board of Regents and everything saying, I trust here. If I need something, I can make one phone call and it can get done. And I didn't. And not saying that he said, not saying I don't have it at A&M or didn't have it at A&M.
He said it's better at Texas.
But it's better at Texas, and I trust it more at Texas because of my relationship with Chris Del Conte. That was what he basically said. But when he says alignment, if you hear him say that, that's what he means is the alignment of, I feel I can make one phone call to my friend Chris Del Conte, and we can push things through and we can get what we need to get done, versus where I was at before, where I didn't know if I had that relationship. It wasn't proven wrong, but didn't know if he had that relationship.
I call it the Holy Trinity. It's and it's the president, Jay Hartzell. It's Kevin Eltife. He's the president of the board of regents, I believe.
Yes.
Chairman, I believe, of the board of regents, and then there's CDC. Like that's the alignment. When they are aligned and the BBs are in the box and there's unanimity behind the burnt orange curtain. And that's why I think that's why you get the best coaches, because they know, like, no. Like you said, this is one phone call. And I can get exactly what I need, less bureaucratic red tape that you got to go through. No, it's a good point about the alignment thing, because he's dropped that a couple of times, actually. Like I said, so the timeline has been a big topic of discussion. CDC said, I got it from Corey Mose. He said that basically they didn't start talking until the game was over. The championship game was over.
Yeah.
Exactly. It was like, okay, I was born during the day, but not yesterday. Come on now.
He did say, I talk to Chris all the time.
Yeah, we know y'all talk all the time, and we know y'all talked a lot before this happened. So there you go. CDC said, I told you yesterday, I was like, oh no, they're gonna go company line. They're gonna say we didn't start talking, negotiating until right after the game was over. And it's like, who don't know? Nobody believes that. Nobody's buying it. You shouldn't be selling it, but it's okay. I understand. It's a must-lie situation. You got to lie about it. I know you lying about it, but it's okay, because I know you had to lie about it. Because otherwise, you'd open yourself up to all these conspiracy theories. There might be a lawsuit or something like that. I get it. All right. They would say it's tampering, even though it's not tampering. They would say it's tampering. I get it. You don't even want to go there. So I understand why you did it, but don't expect me to believe it. I'm smarter than that. It's your magic bullet theory. I don't believe your magic bullet theory. Don't be selling me the magic bullet theory. I'm smarter than that to know that a bullet does not zigzag, okay? It don't do that. It does not change direction in midair. It does not stop in midair. It does not happen, even though you got some fancy physics that'll say it so. It ain't true, okay? So don't be selling me the magic bullet theory, and that's sometimes what they try to do here. Oh, we didn't start talking to right after the championship game. I know he'd be focused. Like, not a text message, nothing about this, nothing. All right. Anyway, here is Coach Sloss being asked about the timeline and addressing the players. Here's Coach Sloss.
Yeah. Let me address that last one first. Like, I'm a pretty transparent guy. Like, it's miserable. It's miserable. The same thing happened at TCU. I was able to call all of those players. I'm still in the process of calling the ones that I'm allowed to call. If a guy has exhausted his eligibility, I can do that. But there will be some players that I don't get to call. That's why my first year at A&M, we played TCU in the regional. And when I saw those kids on the field, that was the first time I had gotten a chance to communicate with them. The rules don't allow me to text them happy birthday, or if something bad happened in their life, like, I'm not allowed to talk to them. And so I tried to preview what could happen when we got back, with a few guys before the decision was made, just to give them a little bit of a heads up that I did have a decision to make. Chris and I have been lifelong friends. We talk all the time, but Texas had a baseball coach. And I think once, you'd have to ask him, but once they made that decision, then at the end of our game the other night, then we had some serious conversation. I touched base with my staff, let them know this was a possibility. And then he came over to visit with me yesterday, and we made a decision.
Oh, cleared the throat cleared at the end too. So that's Seinfeldian right there. He's like, yeah, this is what. So he came over. No, that's because he was asked to clarify that, because he was very vague. Brilliant, by the way, very vague on that timeline, and he went a long way around to give you nothing at all. So he was asked to clarify about, hey, when did the conversations take place about the job, and could you clarify about the timeline? Here is Slosh.
No, Chris and I talk all the time, but we had no, he had a coach. There was no bare bones discussion of this. I mean, this is always, when I was at TCU, these rumors have always been around because of our relationship, and I can't control that. If you ask our coaches, they have had to deal with it since the day I got to Texas A&M. I mean, I had a specific buyout specifically for the University of Texas, and that's because of my relationship with Chris. And so, thankfully, it's really not a question we'll ever have to answer again.
There you go. And he's right. He's probably been dealing with that for a long time, even from his time at TCU. Was he going to leave? And he said he has specific buyout in his contract just for Texas. Like, hey, when Texas comes after you, you got to pay a little bit more money.
Because I don't know if it was phrased that way or if it's because I know that the phrase we had heard was he had a clause in his contract that if it was a team in Texas,
the state of Texas
is what we heard. But I don't know if that was their. Well, no other team's going to get you from Texas.
Yeah, nobody can afford you in Texas.
Yeah, so only Texas is going to be there. So this is why we can say it without saying it.
Yes, true. Good point. Right, you're right. It's probably saying state of Texas, but they know. Come on now. Like, there's only one team that can afford you.
Yeah,
that's gonna be the case. See, so but that's another Freudian slip there. Then you're right, because you're right. It probably does say contractually in the state of Texas, but he knew when he was negotiating when they were like, no, it's for Texas. This is a Texas,
if you're taking any other
Texas clause.
If you're taking any other job in Texas, it's because you did poorly here.
Like yeah. You're right, and that's not going to happen because you're too good of a coach. You dominate. Yeah. So I agree. That's a great point. You're right. That's kind of reading between the lines. He tells you, but in the contract, it definitely says state of Texas because you're right. I remember reading that in the Statesman, but he knows that's about the University of Texas. So he's been dealing with those rumors for a while, and that's adding to obviously the conspiracy theorists. I will say this: I'm not in the grassy conspiracy theories about the timeline, and if it took place, way during the season. There's somebody to believe that they started having these discussions way before, even the postseason started.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying I believe that at all, but I do think there was some discussion that happened before CDC and Schloss are willing to reveal. They're saying right after the championship game was over, basically after he walked out of that press conference, that's when he got a text from CDC or like, hey, I know we've been talking about, hey, going on vacation later this year, but can we talk about this job right now? And it's like, come on. That's the same thing with LeBron and JJ Redick. Ask JJ Redick, hey, have you and LeBron talked about the job? No, we talk, but we don't talk about the job. You talk, but you ain't talking about the biggest story that has to do with you in the NBA right now. Y'all decide not to mention that at all in y'all discussions. Come on.
Hey, buddy, tough loss. I got a proposition for you.
Right? It's like, come on. But I get it. I get why they, I get it. I understand. All right. Let's we'll save the start cuts. Start cuts, matter of fact, they're coming up in like 15 minutes. Coming up in the next hour. Let's get to the break so we can get to our topic for the big fat poll today. And then we'll also get to the musically themed day of the week. All that and more right here when we return on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Longhorn Rod Davis coming back on the Horn.
Back in the Rodcast here on a Thursday morning, and that means it's a new theme Thursday where I'll pick a theme each week, and we will play songs based on that theme all show long. Today's theme, I missed it by a week, but we'll do it now anyway. It's summertime. Summer technically started a week ago, but we'll go ahead and kick it off here on the show today. Get ready for summertime with some summertime music for you all day on the show today. Let's get to the big fat poll of the day. 512-447-3776 is the text line number.
Patrick's big fat poll of the day on the Horn.
Big fat poll of the day today. We know round 1 of the draft was last night, but round 2 is actually today, 3 p.m. 3 p.m. for round 2. I don't know why it's at 3 p.m., but it's at 3 p.m. I don't know if they had to get out of the building. And they were like, well, we don't want to keep the building up all night, so we'll just finish up like 5 p.m. But yeah, 3 p.m. today is 2. I think it was more about trying to see if they get more action in trades or figure out what they were doing between the two. It can't be for ratings because you put it on at 3 p.m. the next day. But it's round 2 is the draft tonight. And so the question of the day, who is the best second round pick in NBA history? This may be easy, but there's a few good ones I'll throw out there for you. So these are players that are picked in the second round of the NBA draft to give you an idea of what talent could be hidden away that people don't know about. Of course, the one who's probably going to win is Jokic. Jokic is up there. Manu Ginobili is a second round pick.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Dennis Rodman's a second round pick. Draymond Green, everyone's favorite, is a second round pick. Marc Gasol, defensive player of the year over LeBron James and not first team all defense. That one was a second round pick. Remember, he was in the trade for Pau Gasol, and everybody freaked out because everyone's like, "Who is this Marc Gasol guy that they're trading to Memphis?" And he's not going to be good. And then turned out to be a perennial all-star. Tony Kukoc is a second round pick. Mo Cheeks, if you remember Mo Cheeks, he was a second round pick. Gilbert Arenas, second round pick as well, who has a crazy, ridiculous show that almost has zero actual integrity.
Oh, yeah. I've watched. I've seen clips of it. I say I watched it, but I've seen clips of it, and it is wild.
It's wild.
We can't never play any of them on the show because they're so crazy. Like, he'll have a good point, but he'll state it in such a kind of just crass fashion. Like, we can't play that.
No, and then Rashad McCants just says dumb, ridiculously dumb things.
They do it like
Rashad McCants said the thing that Greg Popovich was not a good coach, and everyone's like, no.
What are you talking about, man? Like, you can't just say that. We lost credibility as soon as you said that. We lost all credibility.
I think Carlos Boozer was there. He had another take that he had before the draft. That was one that was insane. They were just like, dude, do you watch basketball? Like, I get you playing it.
Yeah, you just come in here every day to say whatever. What's going on here?
But who do you think is the second best second round draft pick in NBA history? Is we will have the second round of the draft today. First round of the draft was pretty good. I'm happy with. I think the Rockets should be happy with their pick, and I think the Spurs should be happy with their pick. So,
I want to get your thoughts about the Rockets pick, and I want to talk a little bit about the Spurs. The Rockets was Reed Shepherd, the guard from Kentucky.
Yes.
And the Spurs was Stefan Castle. Maybe we'll do that. We'll do that coming up next hour. I'll just kind of go through.
We can throw it there. We can throw it in the 8 too. Spurs. But yeah, we'll get back to the NBA draft and talk some about the Reed Shepherd and Stefan Castle and the trade at 8, which, man, if you want to talk about Twitter blowing up for me yesterday, it was the tail end of Aggies and Longhorns going at each other. And then it picked up with all my Spurs Twitter going insane with that trade.
Oh, yeah, really? They did not like the trade?
No.
Spurs fans?
No.
Oh,
well,
okay.
The Spurs Twitter didn't. There's difference.
That's Spurs fans. That's you're right. That could be there's misrepresentation.
Yes, because there's people I know that I talk to,
right.
and they're not as upset about it as Spurs Twitter is. Spurs Twitter is really big on the Spurs winning a title next year, and I don't think they're going to win a title next year, no matter what they do. But they're much more big. They're like, we need to be a 50-win team next season, or Wemby's leaving. And you're like, that's not how this works. It's not.
And Wemby's not leaving.
No, and
I've heard people talk about that already.
Especially not after 2 years, he's going to demand a trade and be like, "No, I need out of here." That's not what's happening.
Like, he's not that. Yeah. First of all, that doesn't happen anyway with rookies, and that's definitely not going to happen with this rookie.
No,
because of how mature he is. That's not happening. So I'm with you. I don't know why, but you're right. That's why Longhorn Twitter. I had to clarify when I talked about it earlier today. Longhorn Twitter was probably at a fever pitch.
Yes.
Probably as engaged and as active as ever seen them doing this whole slosh, controversy move from A&M to Texas. And you're right, Spurs Twitter. I like how you said that, because I don't know how Longhorn Twitter, I don't know how much of a true representation it is of the fan base, but they definitely are an influential group.
Yeah, they are.
The Longhorn Twitter. They do. Then they're acknowledged too by CDC, and so they're like, no, Longhorn Twitter, man. Remember when Sark was going to hire? He was going to hire a Stoops. Do you remember this when he first got the job?
Yeah, I remember.
He was getting ready to hire a Stoops as in an analyst role. It was being reported that he was considering him, and Longhorn Twitter just lost it. I mean, just went ape-ish. And the tail wagged the dog. They literally came out and was like, nah, that's not a real report. We're not considering it. But the folks that I talked to was like, no, it was a real consideration. But they saw Longhorn Twitter and was like, oh, that's not going to go over well. We got to wrap it up on that. Remember the recruit from Lake Travis that was being recruited, and some of the players, and he was one of the players who was accused of putting peanuts in one of their players' locker, and then it put him in danger, and it was a whole controversy. But he was a really, really good player, and it literally I remember Longhorn Twitter and some of the ex-players basically with their statements out on Twitter about it, and then Texas decided to discontinue the recruitment pretty much.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's because of it, but a lot of the conspiracy theories are, no, that's because of it. I think
it's that mix of here's a large part of our audience, and then we will reach out to our boosters and donors, and they'll reach out to us usually. And then so if those guys don't like it and Twitter doesn't like it, then why would we do it?
Yep, you're right. Yeah, man, I guess it's a sample size you got to consider, but hey, man, the tail can wag the dog on some of that stuff. All right, we'll get to the topic for the Big Fat Poll today. We'll get back to it. The best second-round pick of all times, the second round of the NBA draft, is tonight, and we'll come back and get into some of those NBA draft selections for the Spurs and the Rockets. Mavs don't have a pick. It's the last pick in the second round. We'll see if they make a move. We come back. We're from Steve Sarkisian. He was on. We get Greg McElroy on the Always College Football podcast. He talked about the growth, the area of improvement for Quinn Ewers, DBs, wide receivers, D tackles. We'll talk about that and hear from Steve Sarkisian on the other side, right here on the Rodcast, featuring Patrick Davis on Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Babers coming back on the horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. It is a new theme Thursday, and the theme for today is summertime jams. Beautiful thing. My man Patrick celebrating the summer, even though in Texas this felt like summer for quite some time. Summer actually officially started last week. So my man Patrick is celebrating summer. All the jams are summertime jams. Now, do they reference summer, or they have the feel of a summertime?
They all reference
summer.
Thing? They all reference.
They all
summer.
reference summer.
Yes.
Okay, there you go. So they all reference summer. That we're celebrating the beginning of it. I don't know if we're actually celebrating that because it's Texas, so it's a reality we have to face.
Look, honestly, it hasn't been as bad of a summer start that we've had in previous years. As surprising as that is, and I don't want to jinx anything, but I don't think we've had a bunch of 100-degree days yet. I know we had 15 last year in June. We had 15 days over 100 degrees in June.
It's coming. You know it's coming.
I know it's coming. I'm just saying it was already 100 degrees all the time in June last year. We're almost at the end of June now, and it has not been that aggressive. It's been hot. Don't get me wrong. It's been hot. I'm just saying it hasn't been as aggressively bad as it's been. It's been really humid because we've had some rain too. And
actually, it's been more humid than anything else. Yeah, it's been really humid. Like in the mornings, like it's just muggy.
Yeah, so we've had more of that, I think, that has been for sweaters like us, Rod. It has been
not good.
No, it's been a wake up and walk out and be like, yeah, got to take a shower already.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. Oh, I take a shower after the show most of the time. I have to.
Exactly.
I really do. I guess because you're right. It's just so muggy in the mornings. It's too early. Sometimes I'll get up and work out. If I get up and work out, then of course I take a shower. But yeah, I'm with you. It feels like Houston. Houston's a 2-shower city. Houston is hot and muggy and humid all the time. Most humans in Houston have to take a shower twice a day. You're gonna take one either in the morning or at night, or you're gonna take it during the middle of the day. Sometimes you're gonna have to.
Said that.
If you're not showering twice in H-Town, you stink.
That's you said that right too.
You said
you said most people have to take. You're like need to take it. They don't. But they need
to. They need to. No, trust me. You'll start saying it. You don't want to be smelling like midday. And in Houston, it's possible that if you don't shower, you'll smell like midday because everybody's sweating. In
dude, that's the worst feeling is when you take a shower, you're ready, you go in, and you're doing something, and then you just start like a couple hours later, what's that smell? What's that? And then you're like, it's me. Oh no.
Yeah, you don't
How
want
am I already
that
that smelly?
Yeah, because you've been sweating. That's why I'm telling you, I'm a sweater. So once I start sweating, I can't stop. So I gotta avoid it. Once I start, I'm like, damn, it's over. I'm gonna be sweating it takes me like an hour to cool off. So I get it. The summertime, it can be dreadful. So folks, don't assume that you smell fresh. Just make sure. That's why, hey, I use secret deodorant. Secret deodorant does work. It is strong enough for a man. I've been telling people that for a long time. Just randomly had an experience one day. I was at a young lady's house, didn't have any deodorant, used hers. Been on secret ever since. Also got a lot of compliments from the ladies because of my secret deodorant. It was weird. Anyway, let's get to the topic for the Big Fat Poll today. It's already posted on X. You can go check it out, the Horn ATX. Patrick, give the folks the topic for the Big Fat Poll of the day.
Big Fat Poll of the day. Who is the best second-round draft pick in NBA history? Got the second round of the draft tonight. So Jokic is probably going to run away with this. I get it, but I want to see if Spurs Twitter comes together and helps us out with Manu Ginobili and pushes Manu up in this poll. Manu also a second-round pick. One of the last picks because they picked him in 99 after they won the title. They picked him, I think, pick 58 off the top of my head. I think that's right. So it's a pretty late pick there to get a guy who's a Hall of Famer. Dennis Rodman also there. Draymond Green, Marc Gasol, Tony Kukoc, Mo Cheeks, Gilbert Arenas, all second-round picks. Lots of really good players that were second-round picks. So, you could find that diamond in the rough tonight. I don't know if it's going to be Bronny James. Not sure if it's going to be Bronny James.
I'm not sure. I just think it's an accomplishment to get him drafted, honestly. I just think it's the power of influence, and I just think it really is for LeBron and for Rich Paul and his crew. Just the power of marketing and the power of their influence to get him drafted. Because I'm with you. It could work out, but chances are it's not.
No,
he's not going to become a good, a good to a great NBA player.
The role of NBA basketball is if you have to say the half in your height. It's like when you say your age, if you say like I'm 4.5, then you're too young to do something. And if you're too short, if you have to say and a half. And LeBron James Jr. or Bronny James is 6'1.5. And that's how you know. You're like, man, you're too short when you're trying to add in that half because no one's 6'10.5.
That is so true because they do it at the combine. Like for guys, I was 5'8" 3/4. That's how I know. Like I needed the 3/4. I could just be 5'8". No, 5'8" 3/4.
Because if you're
I'm damn near 5'9".
Yeah, if you're in the NFL and you're 6'2", they're like, you're 6'2". You be 6'2" and 3/4. You're 6'2".
No, yeah, exactly. They want to cut you down to 5'8". It's like, no, I'm 3/4. I'm closer to 5'9" now than 5'8". But you're right. They when you that's because you're reaching. Like I need that extra. Hey, every man knows every inch counts, and I need that extra half an inch, man. That half an inch would really matter to me, whether you're talking about the draft or you're talking about other things. But you know what I'm saying? So I'm with you. That's a great point. You're right. That's how you know you're reaching.
It's an easy trick. Whenever you hear that phrase, whenever you hear half in basketball, you're like, oh, they're trying to make this work. They're trying to convince themselves. No. No, if I was 6'1", I get it. You can't draft me at 6'1". 6'1 and a half. You can draft me now.
I bet Kyler Murray had one of them too when he was coming out. I bet it was like a little half on there.
Oh no,
little 3/4, 1/3. Oh man, damn! You just hit me in my deep in my heart right there, man. Because I remember literally selling that 3/4. Like 5'8" 3/4. It's actually checked. It's on the combine. That's legit. 3/4, man. I'm 5'9". Oh man, that hurt. All right, let's get to
in cleats. I'm like 5'9 and a half.
No, it really did because that was like one of the big knocks. It's like, nah, he's short. And I was listed at Texas in the program at like 5'10". So Mac was helping me out. Mac was adding me a couple of inches. I had me at like 5'10". And when I got to the combine, there was some teams like upset with me. They thought I was lying. I was like, listen, I don't make I'm not make the program. I don't tell Mac what my height is. Mac decides or whatever, or John DeYoung decides, hey, Rod B is this. You go, no, you're like, they didn't want me to be. They want me to find out.
We measured in cleats.
Probably. I don't even remember them measuring.
We measured with cleats and the helmet, top of the helmet.
I have no idea how they came up with that. I'm not even going to lie to you. I have no idea, but I was listed as taller in the program. By the way, that happens a lot. That's not that's not a text.
No. That like if you looked at the NBA Combine and what people were listed at beforehand, it's hilarious. Everyone is 2 to 3 inches shorter. Everyone.
Exactly. There you go.
And even guys are like, he's 7'2". It's like he's 6'11".
Yeah. Exactly. Because they want to know the real height at the combine.
Yeah. Well, and then you get the ones where they go, well, in shoes. And you're like, well, but did they measure the other guy in shoes? No. Well, then I don't care. Give me the common measurement of all of them, and then we can judge based on that.
Yep. No, you're right. You just nailed it. That was a hell of a take, and you nailed it because I personally know I am one of them dudes. I was trying to add those fractions in there. I'm like, hey, I need that fraction. I need it badly. That's like 10 draft spots for me, 10, 15 draft spots, that little fraction. I need it badly. All right, good stuff there, Patrick. Let's get the Horn headlines out of the way with my man Patrick, and then we'll come back and hear from Steve Sarkisian. Also, Rod's rant of the day is coming up. We'll squeeze in some NBA draft discussion, so we are loaded. But first, let's get updated, let's get educated, let's get informed on all the top stories of the day with Patrick Davis and the Horn headlines.
All right, your Horn headlines brought to you by Top Gun Rentals and Lawn Equipment. In the NBA, round one of the draft commenced last night with 2 French players taking the top spots, with Zachary Rissache going number 1 to the Hawks and Alex Sarr going number 2 to the Wizards. The Rockets used their number 3 pick to take Kentucky freshman Reed Shepherd, who was thought to be the best shooter in the draft. And the Spurs added UConn guard Stephon Castle with the number 4 pick, and trade the number 8 pick, who became Rob Dillingham, to Minnesota for a 2031 unprotected first-round pick and 2030 pick swap. In Major League Baseball, the Astros extended their win streak to 7 games with a 7-1 win over the Rockies. The win gets the Astros to an even .500 record for the first time this season and puts them 4.5 games behind Seattle in the AL West. Spencer Arrighetti pitched 7 innings, striking out 10 to get the win behind plenty of run support, with Altuve Diaz adding 2 RBIs each. The Astros now head to New York to take on the Mets starting Friday, and the Rangers dropped another game to the Brewers 6-5 after a Montecero walk-off hit in the 10th inning. Nate Lowe had 3 RBIs in the game, but struck out in the top of the 10th, allowing the Brewers to pick up the win and the sweep in the series. John Gray, who had a commanding start in his last outing, takes him out for the Rangers tonight as they begin a 4-game series with the Orioles. And that is your Horn headlines.
All right, thank you, Patrick, for the Horn headlines. We appreciate those. All right, let's hear from Steve Sarkisian. He was on with Greg McElroy on the Always College Football podcast. And Sark is really comfortable with Greg McElroy because they have a history. So Sark opens up about a lot of things with him. And I think he revealed a couple of nuggets here that I didn't think about either. So I got 4 cuts here. The first one, he talks about quarterback. I know everybody wants to talk about quarterback and Quinn, and where Quinn has improved the most. So here is Sark discussing the areas of improvement, or at least the area where he's seen the most improvement from Quinn Ewers this offseason.
I think without question the area that stands out the most is his leadership. This is his team.
Yeah.
And, year one, you're coming in and you transfer, you're just trying to figure it out. Year two, I think he was really ready to step into the role. He gets injured against Bama. He's out. He has to come back. He's working his way back. That was year one. Year two, he gets that injury against Houston, and then he's trying to work his way back. This offseason, this year, he is definitely much more vocal, much more command of what we're doing, and has earned our trust, quite frankly, and to get us in and out of some things. And but just his command and his leadership with a lot of new receivers, you definitely see that. But a lot, I look back at his season last year, the guy really had like one tough quarter, and that was the first quarter of the Oklahoma game, right? Where, there's an interception, that some could say it was a blown coverage, but the corner intercepts it. Then he gets the pick on the tip ball going in in the red area. But people forget in that game, he only threw 6 incompletions. So he really played efficient football for us last year. I thought he played great down the stretch, the Tech game, the Oklahoma State game, and I thought he played really well against Washington. There's a couple of unfortunate plays, but man, he played. He gave us a chance there at the end of the game to go win it. So I think he's poised for a great season, but the biggest thing we see is the leadership for sure.
All right, there's Sark talking about Quinn Ewers' leadership, and that is something that I think NFL scouts, they want to see him in that role. All right, be a leader of men, because at the quarterback position is a natural leadership position. The last time Sark spoke, and I believe it was with Josh Pate, when he was asked about Quinn Ewers and what progress he's made or where he needs to improve the most. Pocket presence is what Sark brought up about what he's improved on the most, and he said he basically needs to start getting deeper into the progressions, go from getting to the first and second read to the third, fourth, and fifth read in the offense. And that's what Sark said he wants to see more from him in terms of that regard. And he said that he's seeing a more of a pocket presence and him mastering the pocket science from Quinn Ewers. So I'm just going to track in the offseason when Sark talks about QB and where he is discussing the improvement and the growth of Quinn Ewers. So leadership and the pocket presence are 2 of the things that he's discussed so far. Sark brought up the wide receivers. And, Sark is interesting when he has been talking about the wide receiver position. We know there's a certain type of wide receiver that Sark likes, but in this cut, it's interesting. He starts talking about the variety of the skill sets that he's had at wide receiver and how that actually influenced his talent acquisition philosophy when it comes to wide receiver via the transfer portal. What they did this year, bringing in 3 transfer portal guys at the wide receiver position after losing 3 in the NFL draft. Here's Steve Sarkisian talking about the wide receiver position.
Also, the ability to make plays at critical moments.
Mm-hmm.
So just let's take a snapshot back at our team last year, right? And obviously we know what Xavier was for 3 years in our program, and the skill set and the playmaking and the explosive plays, the ability to take the ball the distance at any time, and the fear that he kind of struck into a defense, the dependability of a Jordan Whittington, third down, the critical plays, fourth down, the toughness he possessed, blocking, and then the addition of AD Mitchell last year. And AD really was brought in to, he was a great player, but also to take some of the pressure off of an Xavier, to where if you were going to double Xavier, what could this guy do to you in a one-on-one setting? And we also brought him in that the moment was never too big for him. The guy always made plays in the biggest games of his career, college football playoff games, national championship games, and that was exactly how he played for us last year as well. And so losing those 3 guys to the NFL is okay. how do you not necessarily replicate those guys, but how do you make sure that we're filling the voids that they're leaving? Okay, so if you look at Isaiah Bond and you look at the speed and playmaking ability he possessed at Alabama, but also the ability to make plays at critical moments. The famous 4th down catch at Auburn, that's an easy one to point to, but a huge catch in the Georgia game and the SEC championship game. So his ability to be in those moments and be comfortable in those moments, I think, was good for us. Matthew Golden, super tough, super reliable, great route runner, great hands. So when you start thinking Jordan Whittington, right, and now all of a sudden there's a similar guy with similar traits that way. And he's a guy that played really well against us last year. So we saw that for 2 touchdown catches. I was like, yeah, he's a problem.
I wasn't going to bring that up. That's just a little too sensitive. But yeah, they had a nice game against you guys.
And then a Silas Bolden, a guy with elite speed, who's I think had 22 touchdown catches now, or touchdowns in the last 3 years at Oregon State, a veteran player who can take the ball the distance, not only as a receiver, but as a returner. And Matthew Golden, great kickoff returner as well. So we were looking for versatility and experience in those guys. And I think we found that. We've been very impressed with what they've brought. But we also have some young players that I'm looking forward to as well. And whether it's a DeAndre Moore, a Jonte Cook, a Ryan Niblett, the addition of Ryan Wingo, a kid who's been very impressive as a young player for us. But that leads itself to, I don't want to go into this season just relying on 3 receivers, because I don't think you can do that over a 16, 17 game season. So we're gonna have to adjust some things there on kind of how we rotate, how we play our players, and probably a few more guys getting a few more opportunities.
On the roles of different guys, and he's right about that, right? A.D. Mitchell was your since you're a man beater and your red zone weapon. X-Man is your go-to receiver, there's no doubt. And yeah, Jay Witt was that junkyard dog, if you will, right? Blocker, did a lot of the dirty work as a wide receiver. He's a guy that would make some plays in critical moments for you, was a leader on that team, kind of like a Rojo was the culture bearer, if you will, especially at the wide receiver position, even though he wasn't the go-to guy. So there were guys that fulfilled different roles, and he brought up Matthew Golden, comparing him to Jay Witt. I think Isaiah Bond is who he pictures to be the go-to guy in the offense. And who's your man beater, red zone threat? I mean, it could be Bolden. I think it's honestly going to be Ryan Wingo. I think he's going to end up being, because he's so naturally gifted physically, he can just go out there and beat. If you just line him up and say, all right, it's man coverage, go beat man coverage. He probably does that as well, if not better than any of the receivers you have, just because of his and it's not even with refined route running. That's just him and his freakish athletic ability. So something to consider. I didn't know Sark was looking at different roles for wide receivers. So last year, he must have really liked his setup and the roles he had for the different wide receivers last year. I think he's looking to have these guys fill those voids, as he said. On the flip side of this, let's go to defense. He was asked about the DBs, which even Greg McElroy talked about the DBs being a bit of a liability last season. We all know Texas struggled in pass defense last year. You can argue that's why they lost the 2 games to Washington and to the Sooners, playing elite quarterbacks, sophisticated passing games. Here's Sark being optimistic. Once again, Sark is not concerned about the defensive backfield. We've played several cuts from Sark being asked about what's his biggest concern in the offseason, what's the biggest potential issue that could arise for Texas, and he's brought up D tackles, big humans that he needs D tackles. He has not even once brought up the DBs as an area of concern, but he's being asked about them specifically here by McElroy. Here is what Steve Sarkisian had to say.
Well, I'm excited about the group. I think to your point, to watch the growth of a Manny Muhammad last season, to watch the growth of a Derek Williams last season, both true freshmen that played a significant amount of time for us, just how far they've come now. Jahdae Barron and the mainstay that he was for us the last 2 years, and getting him back to 100% healthy is a fantastic player for us.
He's pretty confident, Jahdae?
I mean, yeah, he's a little bit confident. But I'll tell you what, one guy that's back to playing great football for us right now, that was actually a starter for us as a true freshman 2 years ago, had a knee injury and last season was tough on him, but had a great spring, is Jalen Gilbo.
Yeah.
And so where he's at, and then you look at what we're able to do recruiting wise and what we're able to do in the portal to go get an Andrew Makuba, a 3-year starter from Clemson, to come back home to Austin has been a great addition at safety for us. To go get a Javion Cole transfer from San Jose State, to watch the growth of a Gavin Holmes who came to us last year from Wake Forest, not to mention some of the high level recruits we have, whether it's a Kobe Black, a Wardell Mack, Xavier Filsamy, a Jordan Johnson Rubel, and then you have kind of the glue back there in Michael Taft. So we've got probably, in my opinion, this is probably the most talented and deepest secondary that we've had in our time here. And I'm looking forward to watching these guys, because I think the continuity of the coaching staff, them having the same coaches now going into year 4, has been helpful. The communication's better. But I think on the flip side of that, we can help those guys. And I think we did address it with the pass rush. Going and getting a Trey Moore from a UTSA, who's a legit pass rusher, going and signing Colin Simmons, who's a legit pass rusher, the development of an Ethan Burke and a Baron Sorrell. Those guys make the passing game a lot more difficult, and their ability to get to the quarterback. And so I do think we've addressed that in a way where we feel really confident in that, man, if we can force people to throw it, that we're gonna create more opportunities for ourselves for turnovers, sacks, fumbles, interceptions, because we're a little better in the pass rush and we're a little better in the coverage end, back end.
All right, 2 things that I took out of that: the mention of Jalen Gilbo. We're hearing a lot about him, and now he's like, no, Jalen Gilbo is going to be in the mix here. That could make things really interesting. If he can play that nickel spot, guys, that means you can move Janae Barron out to corner at times if you want to. Remember, the one spot where I believe there may be, some issues in the secondary, at least with your frontline starters, is the cornerback spot opposite Malik Muhammad. If you trust Gilbo more than at nickel, more than you trust them at corner, Gavin Holmes and Javion Cole, depending on what happens there, at least you have another option and a solution if that cornerback spot opposite Malik Muhammad is not playing to a certain standard, if it's Holmes or if it's Javion Cole. So that was big, him bringing up Jalen Gilbo. I like that. And I'm glad he brought up Taft Daddy too. I've been saying this for a while. I wonder who on this team is going to be the culture bearer, right? It was Rojo the years he was here. And what I mean by that is a guy that essentially epitomizes the culture. They are the walking example of it. They symbolize it. And it's not always on this team, strange enough, it shows you they got a good culture. It's not always the frontline starter or the best or elite player at the position, right? Rojo wasn't even a starter. Jay Witt was the 3rd best wide receiver. He was a 4th option in the passing game for Texas. And yet all the guys talk about his leadership and how influential his leadership was. So who's going to be that guy? Who's going to be the Rojo or the Jay Witt? And honestly, Taft Daddy kind of fits it. A guy who's earned a scholarship. He's not going to be a frontline starter when it's all said and done. It's going to be Makuba, probably Derek Williams, but he's still going to be contributing. And the way his journey is what inspires guys, right? It was Jay Witt's journey. He had injuries and thought about giving up on football, but had to change his diet and his lifestyle just to make sure that his physiology could be, could essentially help him persevere through some of these injuries. And so that now he was a different kind of athlete, a better conditioned athlete. And because he had to transform his body, that allowed him now to make it through 12 games an entire season. And that's all he wanted to do, was contribute in that way. And people watched his journey and watched the way he worked, and it inspired the team. Same thing with Rojo and the way that he led, even from that backup role, the backup running back position. So the thought is, who's going to be that guy on this team? That's not necessarily the star of the team, but they are considered an elite leader on the team. Taft fits it. He does kind of fit that mold. Just throwing it out there. Yeah. But I don't know. It could be Bender. It could be. It's going to be somebody. I don't know who it's going to be.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, I mean, like Ethan Burke would be a guy who's been around for a little bit.
Ethan Burke could be that guy, but Ethan Burke's going to. Well, he's a frontline starter right now.
It's
almost sometimes a guy that isn't a frontline starter. I'm not saying the starters aren't leaders; they are. But you limit Jay Witt and Rojo almost held a special significance, right? It was strange how the fans and the players acknowledged it. The fans acknowledged it because the players acknowledged it. The players acknowledged it because the coach acknowledged it.
Yeah.
And so, right, it was Sark that was first saying, "No, Rojo, guys, I'm getting him on the field. this guy's special. It was Sark kept saying it was like, damn, okay. And then Sark did it. And then the players and the stories came out about him and the team meetings and all that kind of stuff. And then we learned about Jay Witt, and it was Sark talking about Jay Witt and how, oh man, he's special in the way that he leads. He thought about quitting the game, and now he plays with a new joy, and everybody recognizes that joy. And then we saw it on the field, him making some critical plays like that TCU game, and then we started to recognize it. So it almost comes from Sark first, and then it like trickles out.
Yeah.
Or you know what I mean? That kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm trying to think of anybody else. DeAndre Moore may be falling into that, but I think he's
it may not exist this year. Maybe it was just unique to those.
And it may be
first 3 years or so.
Yeah, and it may be there are a few guys that are kind of carrying that torch together because there isn't that one strong personality to do it.
Totally agree. Could be that too. All right, we're gonna get to the D tackles, but we'll table that. We'll get back to that cut because he talks about the defensive tackle position and what he has to do. But I want you guys to hear that because I think it's really interesting. But we're up against it, so let's go to break. We'll come back. Raj ran today. I'm ranting about. You know what? I'm upset with EA Sports. EA Sports, they're doing something that I do. I've done this before. All right, I've talked about this on the show. I've been so respectful at times to people is considered offensive. And I believe EA Sports has crossed that line. They're being almost too respectful to the point where I think Longhorn fans are finding it offensive. I'll explain that on the other side in Rod's rant. We'll also talk about the Rockets draft pick and the Spurs draft pick. I want to give my man Patrick Dawson pick his brain about that. So we'll get into that on the other side right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm lifetime Longhorn. Rod Babers coming back on the horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Time to get into Rod's rant of the day. I got a couple of things, not a couple of things, really one subject I want to discuss here, but then a couple of things that we'll discuss in this segment, but in Rod's rant, just one thing. So EA Sports, they got the new video game coming out, college football video game. Everybody's excited about it. And they've been trickling out like the rankings. They did I think they did most dominant home field advantages or toughest places to play earlier this week. They're going to release the team rankings a little bit later on as well. So they'll tell you who the highest ranked teams on the game. They'll at least, I think, release the highest rated players. They wish the highest paid, the highest rated players on the game too. They're released. So they're trickling it out slowly but surely. So they're letting out some of the details. And one of the details that has been confirmed on the new game is that they will not, and this comes from The Athletic, they will not have the horns down included in the EA Sports college football video game, the new game. And they've been EA Sports, they have a saying, it's called "It's in the game." How's the horns down not in the game, and yet anytime the Horns play an opponent, especially A&M and especially Oklahoma, they're going to do the horns down. Like that just goes without saying. Hell, you see the horns down when teams aren't even playing Texas.
No, it's see it almost every ESPN game day or big noon kickoff. Someone's going to throw a horns down at the camera.
Exactly.
Whether Texas is involved or not, whether it's even a Big 12 SEC, it could be two Big 10 schools.
And
you might see a horns down.
You'll see a horns down because it's basically it's college football's version of a middle finger now. It's just like,
yeah,
and maybe that's why they don't put it in there because now it's just like anytime, like, yeah, horns down. And I'm upset as a Longhorn fan. First of all, they're gonna say they're trying to be respectful. They're saying basically they don't want to disrespect anybody's hand signs and hand symbols, so they're only gonna have teams doing their own hand symbols, and that's fine. And if that's the case, then they're offending me by trying to be respectful, which I understand because I do this a lot. Actually, I have recognized that I'm trying to be respectful, and I cross the line in my extreme respect that I end up offending somebody. Like I did this to E. Hogan, I believe, when I did a show with E. Hogan and we did it out of his house. I would wear shoe covers like into the house. Like I just wear shoe covers because he had a really nice house, and I was just wearing, I wasn't dressing up, and I had shoes that I'd wear out, so I didn't want to wear my disgusting shoes in this nice house. So I'd wear shoe covers. And I realized after a while, after about probably weeks of this, I was like, I'm definitely probably offending him by wearing the shoe covers at this point. But it was my attempt at being respectful to how nice the house was, not to offend him. But I have this weird ability to offend people by things I was trying to be respectful. And it happens all the time. Now we have in our society, there's no gender fluidity, which is great. I'm happy that everybody's living their best life, all right, and being their true self. That's amazing. And God bless our society for being progressive enough to accept all people in all their forms. But I recognize now that remember the yes sir, yes ma'am thing I got to cut that out because I have got to cut that. It's just got to be yes, thank you, or no, thank you, yes, please. You know what I mean? Because I realized a few times now I've realized, oh, yes, sir. And I realize as I say it and I go, oh, that probably ain't, you know what I mean? Like that probably doesn't apply here. And I just spurred it out and it's like, I see, you know what I mean? I can kind of recognize the transitioning and I'm like, oh, I probably could have just said, yes, thank you. Or, you know what I mean? Some people probably, like, hey man, that's not a big deal. But for me, I'm trying to be respectful. Yeah. But like I said, at times my respect can offend people. And I get it.
You're trying to be respectful to the select few that you want to still respect. And then imposing that on the masses, and then the most people will be like, "Why are you doing that? I don't care about that." And you're like, "No, but there's this group of people that does, and I don't want to ever offend them.
Yeah.
So I'm trying not to offend them because I get it." And it's so because there's plenty of times in anything where you say like we don't cuss on the show. We could now, we don't because we know that it's
some people will get taken aback,
and so we don't need to. It's something where you just go, we don't really need to do it. We don't do it anyway on the show. So we don't need to add that in just to placate something that we don't really want to do anyway. But we're doing it because you go, well, most people wouldn't care, but some would. So we just won't do it.
Yeah. Like I said, if they're saying they're just being respectful, I get it. But they're offending me by trying to be respectful because I'm offended as a Longhorn fan because the reality of my life as a Longhorn fan is I see the horns down everywhere I go. You got to deal with that reality. You're going to see it and in the SEC, you're going to see it even more than you've ever seen it. And the reason I'm also offended by it is because it's the best free media in sports today. And they're taking it away from us. And there is something that would be on the game, and it would be another version of free media, which you guys know I'm all about. And I think for Texas, I don't know if there's a better form of it in all of college sports where everybody knows what it means. You're not, you know what I mean? It's not the actual hook'em sign. It's not the actual hook'em hand sign, but everybody knows exactly what it means when the horns are down, and everybody makes the natural connection to Texas. And that's all free media is trying to do.
Yeah.
Make you think about the Longhorns. And like I said, that's powerful. Matter of fact, a great example of it was just now with CDC and what he did with the David Pierce announcement, and then the acquisition of Schloss. It's very similar. The timing of it, he didn't have to make that announcement then, but the timing of it was, hey man, let's maximize this free media. Let's ride this wave, because right before the championship game, it'll be all anybody discusses will be the University of Texas. And like I said, I don't know if they did it purposefully or it was unintentional, but it was a brilliant way to maximize free media. I always tell the lesson that when President Trump won the election, he had almost $6 billion in free media during the election leading up to it. Almost $6 billion. I think Hillary Clinton had like less than, it was like half that. It was like $2.8 billion in free media. We talked about him so much. I mean, everybody talked about him 24/7, and people were like, well, it wasn't all good. It wasn't all good, but we talked about him, and it ended up working out for him. All right. So my point is, free media can be powerful, is my point. It these days, and it is something that they actually do quantify. I always tell the story about the Game of Thrones in their last season. Somebody made a mistake and left a coffee cup in one of the scenes. And it was one of the most watched show at the time on television. And everybody made a huge deal about it. It went viral. It wasn't even a Starbucks cup, but Starbucks is synonymous with coffee in this country. So everybody thinks Starbucks when they see a coffee cup. So Starbucks got $3 billion, damn near $3 billion in free media from it, because they were talking about Starbucks and referencing Starbucks when it wasn't even a Starbucks cup. It was just a coffee cup. And everybody assumed, oh, must be Starbucks. Free media, they'll do the same thing with the horns down. Go automatically from, when you see that, you go Longhorns. Automatically think it. So they took away one of the most powerful forms of free media, and I can't tell you how much of $1 billion in free media they lost. So maybe they did it because of that. I was like, no, we don't want to give the Longhorns that much free media.
I would say, you won in the game, but you also want it to be a thing that is in every single stadium across a game, where you're playing Boise State versus Akron, and you see a horns down pop up in it, and you're like, all right, there we go. That seems true. More right. That's what I'm saying. I want it there. I don't want it just to be like Aggies and Sooners using it, because then it's annoying. I don't want to give them that, but I want to give the world it.
Yeah, no, you're right. Because that's when there are lots of examples of it. You see it all the time, and you just talked about it. Texas has nothing to do with some of these matchups, and you'll see the horns down.
Yeah.
So for them not to put it in the game, I'm a little disappointed. And now people are going to say it's Texas that Texas did that.
Yeah.
They were like, Texas didn't want it in the game. And that's why I'm taking this stance. No, I want it in the game. It should be in the game. It is a part of college football. You see it all the time, and I think this is a fail. That's an L by EA Sports. I don't know why they would do that.
I mean, we know why they did it, but I get we don't want to have any derogatory hand gestures, or we don't want people with dirty signs or people cut. Like, I get why, but at the same part, it's who cares? Who cares?
I know. I was once flagged for doing the horns up. I was once flagged in a game for unsportsmanlike conduct versus Tulane in 2002 in the Superdome. The Longhorn section, I made a play. I got I think I got back-to-back PBUs. So I was feeling myself. I was like, oh man, I was like, oh man, I'm balling. And I went over to the crowd, and I did the hook 'em hand sign, horns up to them. Everybody in the crowd went nuts and crazy. They flagged me for unsportsmanlike conduct for just doing horns up. And I'm not joking. You can ask, I remember Mac Brown talking about it, and it was ridiculous. But my point is, I guess I don't even know why that was considered offensive. It was just the horns up. But neither one of them. Nobody should be offended. That's cupcake stuff. You guys that's snowflake stuff. We're past that.
Yeah.
Nobody's offended by horns down. and Texas shouldn't be offended by it. If anything, I think they should embrace. I know CDC's embrace the hate. That's part of embracing the hate.
Yes.
Can't say embrace the hate, make T-shirts, and then be upset about the horns down. So I don't think it's coming from Texas side at all. If it is, that's even sadder. But I don't think it is coming from Texas side because I think they understand the power of free media. They wouldn't do that. That'd be stupid. So I'm assuming this is EA Sports, and this is, like I said, it's a failure on their part. Come on, man. You're trying to make the game realistic. You're not even gonna have the horns down in the game. Bad move. All right, there you go. That's all I want to get to. Okay, can we talk about the Rockets draft pick real quick and then the Spurs draft pick? And we'll get back into this obviously in the 8 o'clock a little bit more in detail. But what are your thoughts about the Spurs? Well, the Rockets were first. Let's go with Reed Shepherd, the guard out of Kentucky. You said he might be the best shooter.
He's definitely the best shooter in the draft. He's a really good shooter. He has great basketball instinct. He's one of the guys with a half, though. He's a guy that's a little short.
He's one of them.
He's a little short.
He's a half guy.
So the problem is the biggest issue with him, because again, you say all these guys have something. There's no one in this draft that doesn't have some red flag or some, liability. So he's a really good player. He's a little bit shorter, and so you wonder about him playing off ball and not being the point guard. And he wasn't really a point guard in Kentucky. So if he can learn how to handle the ball better, be a point guard, then he could be a really good player for them. I'm curious to fit with him and Van Vliet. I don't feel like they can be on the court together too much. I feel like that'll be too much of a defensive liability with Van Vliet and Shepherd on the court. Shepherd has blocks. He has steals. He's very instinctive with his hands and how to play defense, but I don't know if he has the quickness, the feet, the foot speed to be able to stay in front of guys. He's actually pretty athletic as well. Measured pretty well in the vertical and some other areas during the combine. So I think he's a really good player. But it looked to me more as this would probably be a guy that you're going to build up to maybe replace Van Vliet, maybe learn under Van Vliet a little bit, and then replace him as a 3-point shooter that you hope can be a better 3-point shooter. Your sky high best case scenario, oh my God, we won the draft for the last 20 years is you could see him somewhat compared to Steph Curry.
Ooh,
but I don't. That's That's very much pie in the sky. But a guy who is a little bit smaller, not the best defender, but an okay defender, and then can shoot lights out at points. That's kind of what you're hoping. That's your ceiling of the best case scenario. But other than that, he's a guy who can come in and be a hot shooter for an offense that really had problems at points. And for him, I think if he's able to move without the ball, learn to move without the ball a little bit better, or control the offense and get himself open once he passes the ball off, if him and Şengün can build chemistry together, where Şengün is, one of those guys where people love him, but he does not pass out of that pocket, out of the post too often, and that's a problem in the NBA. You can't do that. Those big guys who just swallow the ball, it's 90s basketball. It doesn't work in 2024 as well. So the rest of the team becomes disinterested, and then the center doesn't want to play defense, and no one else wants to play defense. So you start to give up a lot of points, and no one moves without the basketball, and everything just slops on both ends of the court if you don't keep the entire offense involved. So he's a really good player, but if you say he learns more of when those double teams come, don't try and force it up, kick the ball back out, and you find a guy like Reed Shepherd, he could be really, really good for this Rockets team.
I like that. Stefan Castle, UConn guard for the San Antonio Spurs at 4.
Seems like a Spurs guy. Comes from a winning program at UConn. Plays great defense. He's a guy that I think you look at Drew Holiday. He has that potential as a perimeter defender. He needs to get his shot up. He just doesn't really have a good jump shot. It's not terrible. It's not like a weird form or anything. He just needs to work on it, get a little bit more consistent of his shots. If he can get his shot up, then he'll be a starter for the Spurs at point guard. He's also a guy that played off ball a lot in college. He needs to handle the ball more for the Spurs. So this will be another experiment to see how well he can handle the ball. But, as much as people want to say Victor Wembanyama can fix all your defensive problems, he's not going to be on the court 48 minutes a game. And you add in the fact that if you're able to stop teams on the perimeter and at the baskets, then you become an elite defensive team instead of just a good defensive team with Victor Wembanyama. I think it's a great pickup for them. He seems like he's a culture fit for the Spurs. He seems like he's a fit of a guy they can work on. They don't have their shooting coach anymore, Chip England. He's with Oklahoma City now, but that's a guy where you just kind of got to work on his shot all off season and work on his handles a little bit more, the same as Reed Shepherd. If those guys can play point, and actually play point guard, then they'll be great pickups for both teams.
Yeah, good point. And both those guys can play better defense than a lot of the guards these days, right? Both these guys are considered guys who can play some defense, which is pretty good.
And they play defense differently because Castle is
one guy's a bigger frame, right?
Well, bigger frame, and he stays in front of guys. Like that was the one, they kept showing it last night, but it's one is against Illinois, Terrence Shannon Jr., who was drafted in the first round. Really good offensive player, and he shut him down in the tournament. Just completely shut him down, made him a non-factor. So when you have guys, someone who can shut some people down, and you're still going to get screened off in the NBA. You'll still get pick and rolls and all of that. But to have really good perimeter defenders is big. I think it was a great pickup. He was a guy that basically he was the one from day one that I wanted the Spurs to pick it for. Thought that was going to be the best available player there. I still think he was the best available player there. So looking forward to that pick.
At least you got elite defenders now in your backcourt, front court, and against your wings too with Sohan.
That's what you're working for. That's what you're trying to get to.
Okay. All right. Good stuff there. All right. We come back. We'll talk more about the draft coming up next hour, but we got what the stats coming up next segment right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis and Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Davis coming back on the horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Time to get into some what the facts, what the stats here. I found this one over at the PGA website, and it's actually pretty phenomenal stats. So if you're a Tiger Woods fan or a Jack Nicklaus fan, this one's for you. So basically it says here in the last US Open Jack Nicklaus played in 2000, Tiger Woods won. In the last PGA that Jack Nicklaus played in 2000, Tiger Woods won. In the last Masters Jack Nicklaus played in, Tiger Woods won. And in the last Open that Jack Nicklaus played in, Tiger Woods won. Isn't that a freaky stat?
That is
crazy.
Do you think Scotty's going to try and repeat that with Tiger?
Oh, I got to go back and track that. That would be.
Well, we don't know though.
Good.
Tiger's last anymore because you have to wait and see when
good
Tiger.
Point. Yeah, you're right. I mean, I don't. Yeah, that's a good point. I got to go track and see how often Tiger's played and Scotty's won because Tiger don't play that often.
Yeah.
Right. And Scotty's won with like a third of the tournaments he's played in so far this year. Tied the record for a Tiger Woods record for 6 so far in the calendar year. That's a great. I don't know. I mean, because there's no doubt Scotty's on the best streak and on the best heater for a golfer since Tiger in his prime.
Yeah,
I haven't seen anything like it. I haven't seen anything like it. So there you go. Yeah, well, I mean, if you like Jack Nicklaus and you like Tiger Woods, there's a nice stat for you and what the stats. Also, somebody told me, I guess I don't know if this is a fact or not. But the Aggies are wild. Somebody told me they're online. There's a rumor that the Aggies leaked Slosh's number out there.
That's not surprising.
And his Venmo account apparently. Like I don't even know why that would be damaging.
Well, I guess they're just requesting money.
I think they just there are somebody put some screenshots of them. Like requesting. Matter of fact, yeah, it was Barstool Longhorn. I take that back. Yeah, shout out to Barstool Longhorn. Says some Aggie fans decided to leak Coach Slosh's number and subsequently his Venmo online, and now are blowing up his phone.
Yeah,
what
did they say during the presser? He goes, I think if I went to another school in the country, I wouldn't have gotten some of the interesting phone calls and text I got.
Yeah,
it's a nice way of saying death threats.
Yes. So there you go. So Coach, I'm sure changed his number. That's no big deal.
You gotta get one of them 512s.
Gotta get one of them 512s, baby. Hey, they running out, ain't they?
I know they have there's a new area.
There's a new one. That means y'all are running out. That's why I never got rid of my 713 in H-Town. 713 is the original H-Town Houston area code. And then they got 281 and 832, and now they got like 2 other ones. Like, no, man. I need that area code. I need that 713, baby. Original H-Town. 512. Hey, you running out the 512 numbers. Ain't
737 is the new one.
Ooh, 737. Nah, man.
No, that's 737 is you're the problem. You're the ones who ruined this town.
Seriously, you have 737. There's a Seinfeld episode about that in there.
Yeah,
actually. Yeah, it's like a new area. Yeah, it's a new area code. I think Elaine get it. One of them gets it, and then they obviously are looking at them sideways all the time with the new area code. So hey, I stay 713, baby, all the time. All right. This fact I wanted to get out there too, and I don't know why I don't know what this is, but I saw it come across my timeline. So the International Federation of American Football, the IFAF, they have their under 20 world championships. This is the thing, like tackle football. America lost to Japan in the under 20 IFAF championships.
Well, who was playing though?
Well, sorry, it was a semifinal. Yeah, exactly. You know what? We got to get into this a little bit because I'll tell you because I did some research. I was like, who's on these damn teams then? Because they lost 41-20 to Japan.
So what you're telling me is it's the best Japanese players and some Americans who played high school football 14 years ago.
Yeah. I don't know if I'm not even sure it's that long ago, but I did see this. Yeah, it says final score, the Commonwealth Stadium, where Japan is the first qualified team for the under 20 World Championships final because they beat Team USA 41-20.
I feel like this is like that fake school that got a game on on ESPN.
It's gonna be Japan versus Canada, I think. Canada will join Japan in the under-20 World Championship final for the IFAF American Football Championship game. Because they won. They beat Austria 27-20. Okay, here's what qualifies you to be on the team. Here are some of the parameters. NFL players are ineligible.
Of course.
So no NFL players.
Well, there's no NFL players under 20, right?
Yeah, it's like under. So they just telling you just in case, whatever. Players must have graduated from college, making active college players ineligible. So exhausted your college eligibility.
Okay.
So you must exhaust your college eligibility, and you are not an NFL player. They didn't say anything about former NFL players on here. They didn't say anything about that. So all levels, and it says all levels of NCAA and NAIA athletics are required to be represented, not just FBS. So it's got some really weird parameters. It says unless it's the Summer Olympic Games, and then they change stuff if they ever get tackle football. But they do have flag football for the Summer Olympic Games. And the IFAF also is one of the main entities in charge of flag football in America. So there you go. We lost to the under 20 team. Now, see, under 20, you can't get retired NFL players because they're not going to be under 20. So I don't know how they get these guys. Like they are just guys who either just got done.
You can't have
you in college. You're still under 20, so exhausting eligibility. You can't get those in. So team. That's a great. I have no idea.
So it's basically 18 and 19-year-olds who didn't go to college.
Pretty much, yes. Yes, that's basically what you're looking for. Who played high school football but didn't want to play at the next level or couldn't play at the next level, and also don't want to. I guess you can go to college and still play in it. You know what I mean? Can't you go to? It says you must have graduated college. So I have no idea how they do this. I really have no idea.
So they beat us because we don't have a team.
Making active college players ineligible. Yeah. So I have no idea how they come up with it. Honestly, I'm looking at it. This is from their Wikipedia page. So I have no idea. It says from the U.S. Men's National American Football Team. And yes, it gets into the International Federation of American Football, which is the IFAF. So I have no idea who's on this team and how you qualify to be on the team. Because the rules seem like nobody is eligible to be on the team. Because the way the rules are set up. So
is it just like young Sheldon?
I have no idea. Like
it's just really smart kids who graduated college before they turned 20.
It's not permitted. Yeah. I mean, it basically said this does not permit the top football players in the United States to compete. The criteria are applied to make international tournaments more competitive. So basically, they want Team USA to lose because they want the other countries that are participating to continue to cultivate the sport, beat Team USA, and then one day maybe they'll play one of the high school football teams from Texas. and they'll play Duncanville or somebody like that, or DeSoto.
Apparently they've won in 2007, 2011, and 2015 though.
Who the American team?
The under twin men's under U2.
Who they say is on the team?
Figure out.
You get a roster to find out who's on this damn team because this is a mystery. This is a hell of a mystery what's going on here. All right, there you go. So that's what the facts with the stats, and we still don't. We have fewer facts now than we had before we introduced the topic. All right, we come back. We'll get into the sorry, I got my man. Now I got Patrick going down a rabbit hole of the IFAF rosters. Talk about a bad rabbit hole to be down. All right, we'll come back. We'll get into Schloss's press conference where he met the media for the first time as the Texas head baseball coach. And we also will get into some NBA draft discussion last night about the first round. All of that and more right here on the Rodcast. Featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Low, and Rod Rivers coming back on the horn. Welcome back to the Rodcast. It is a new theme Thursday on the Rodcast, and my co-host, the Idealionaire, Patrick Davis, that's when he comes up. He comes up with all the musically themed days of the week, but he comes up with a creative theme, and all the songs are to celebrate, and they reference that theme in some way, form, or fashion. And today, the theme is all about the summertime here in Texas. We know that summertime is here because we can feel it. The triple digit temperatures are fast approaching, and we celebrate summer, and that's the theme of New Theme Thursday. So all the songs reference summer. So we appreciate Patrick helping us out there. Also, we appreciate him coming up with the topic for the big fat poll today. He watches a ton of NBA basketball and gives you a ton of great info about it. And the topic for the big fat poll today is NBA related because we just had day one actually of the NBA draft. We'll have day two coming up today. But he wants to know, because of day two, be the second round of the NBA draft. He wants to know what the best second round pick of all time is. You can go check that out on the Horns X account.
But Manu's holding his own. Manu's holding his own against Jokic.
Is he?
And Rodman's got a few votes in there. Surprisingly, no one's voted for Draymond yet.
That's least surprising thing. Period. Yeah, and first of all, he shouldn't be getting. But man, I'm surprised Manu's getting. He's getting that much love. Well, I shouldn't be, considering most of our fans are probably Spurs fans, a lot of them. But because Jokic, I mean, in terms of accomplishments as a individual player, he is, the most accomplished of this group that you have here. There's no doubt. But Manu, maybe they're just talking about Manu's impact on the dynasty or dynastic run by the Spurs.
Yeah, or they're just Spurs fans. I'm fine with that too.
Or they're just Spurs fans. Or they're just straight up biased and they just straight up not looking at it objectively at all. But I'll say that Manu has always been, to me, like, obviously Tim Duncan is, he is considered the most revered of the big three for the Spurs. There's no doubt. I mean, he's one of the greatest players of all time. So he's the one in the GOAT conversation. But you can make the argument that Manu is the most beloved. Like I was looking at these popularity rankings about Star Wars fans who list like their favorite Star Wars characters, and they were always surprised at how high Han Solo was always listed, because apparently Star Wars fans just love them some Han Solo. I figured Manu's kind of the Han Solo of the Spurs dynastic run. Like he's beloved by Spurs fans. And you know what? When you give up a testicle for your team, you know what? You probably should be beloved, because basically that's what he did. And he swatted a bat with his own damn hand when he swatted a bat away. He's got a lot of folklore and legend around Manu.
I mean,
so
he lost a testicle for the Spurs.
That's what I'm saying. That's exactly.
He's got a tetanus shot for the Spurs.
Yeah.
He's done a lot for this team, and won some championships too. Throw those in there.
No, he is. He's beloved, and that's why he's holding his own now with Jokic.
So from the research I've just done, these are kids who have they're either class of like 2024 or 2023 kids from high school who did not get any offers to go to college.
Yeah. Because you can't go to college, right?
So,
on this team.
So the ones I'm finding, I'm looking up. I looked up the quarterback. I looked up the running back. Well, no, it's not that I don't know them. I'm looking them up online and not seeing them tied to any college. And they're 24/7. They have the thing, but they do not have. They have no ranking. Profile. They have no ranking. Yeah. They have no anything. So, so they are players that could not get D3 offers.
Wow.
If that's what it is.
So that
not a
so
shot
not
at
even,
anybody, but
you're right. So it's a great point. So like literally some of the best Texas high school football teams could go over there and beat them.
So there's Texas players on the team.
That's what I'm saying. Like, so my point is, that's what I'm saying. You could get, if you got a school like DeSoto or Duncanville that's got like 7-8 D1 prospects on the roster, like guys who are going to play at Texas and Power 5 programs, they probably could go legitimately and beat any of these teams.
Yeah, it's just in Alberta. They can go up there.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, they could beat any of those teams because these teams don't even have prospects that could be offered at like you said, D3 level.
I mean, they do not. I do not see any offers. I don't see anything.
I agree with that. That makes sense, though. That makes perfect sense because you got to change. Because if you're in college as a college player, you can't play unless you've exhausted your eligibility. So it makes sense that you're not even playing in college at all. Yeah, you just came straight out of high school. And why wouldn't you go play in college if you had the opportunity? Well, because you weren't offered.
So this is one of the things on their website that they're selling is you can this is a way to kind of get seen by colleges that you'll get more footage playing against these other people. and maybe you could get another chance to, get seen.
Gotcha.
That's one of the selling points of it. So if
that
that might answer your question, though.
That makes perfect sense now. And that's why they lost to Japan. That's why Japan, and that's why Japan just beat you. All right. Okay. So anyway, there you go. Some clarification on that. All right. Well, let's get updated, educated, and informed on all the top stories of the day. Then we'll come back and hear from Coach Schloss, and we'll also discuss the NBA draft round 1 and look ahead to round 2 of the NBA draft. But first, let's get educated on all the top stories of the day with my man Patrick Davis in the Horn Headlines.
All right, your Horn Headlines brought to you by Top Gun Rentals and Lawn Equipment. In the NBA, round 1 of the draft commenced last night with 2 French players taking the top spots, with Zachary Risacher going number 1 to the Hawks and Alex Sarr going number 2 to the Wizards. The Rockets used their number 3 pick to take Kentucky freshman Reed Shepherd, who is thought to be the best shooter in the draft. And the Spurs added UConn guard Stephon Castle as a 4 pick and trade the number 8 pick, who become Rob Dillingham, to Minnesota for a 2031 unprotected first-round pick and a 2030 pick swap. In Major League Baseball, the Astros extended their win streak to 7 games with a 7-1 win over the Rockies. The win gets the Astros to an even 500 record for the first time this season and puts them 4.5 games behind Seattle in the AL West. Spencer Arrighetti pitched 7 innings, striking out 10 to get the win behind plenty of run support, without Tuban Diaz adding 2 RBIs each. The Astros now head to New York to take on the Mets starting Friday, and the Rangers dropped another game to the Brewers 6-5 after a Montecero walk-off hit in the 10th inning. Nate Lowe had 3 RBIs in the game, but struck out in the top of the 10th, allowing the Brewers to pick up the win and sweep in the series. John Gray, who had a commanding start in his last outing, takes him out for the Rangers tonight as they begin a 4-game series with the Orioles. And that is your Horn Headlines.
All right. Before we get to the Schloss sound here, I want to get my man Patrick's thoughts about the first round of the NBA draft that took place. Everybody, has been echoing pretty much the same narrative about this draft. It's a weak draft, weaker compared to other recent draft classes, weaker draft class. And that it will be kind of different approaches, different methodologies teams would have because of the talent deficit in this draft potentially. Did you notice anything like that? Any changes in how teams approach the draft?
So, one of the biggest factors in it is the Spurs traded the 8 pick. Yeah, and they didn't trade it for anything particularly grandiose. So there's parts of it that are more grandiose. They seem more, if you looked at this trade 5 years ago, you probably would think, man, that's crazy that you were able to get that. It's not as crazy in today's world. But basically, they picked Stephon Castle at 4. There's a couple guys that people thought maybe if they were available at 8, maybe a Ron Holland, maybe a Salon, another French player. If he was available at 8, they would have picked him instead. But they didn't feel they had anybody they really wanted there. They pick Rob Dillingham, which you think, okay, maybe this could be a guy off the bench, but they don't really need more guard play. They have some good guards there. So to add another guard there, and for the money that it'd be about $7 million a year to start and going up from that. They figure they can keep that cap space. It opens up a little bit more room for them to either make a trade or sign somebody in free agency. So it opens up a couple more doors for them, maybe to add some veterans on an extremely young team. So there's reasons why they do that. And it shows you how deep they think the draft is. They say number 8 is probably number 15 in most drafts. We don't want to pay that guy $7 million a year. And maybe he works out, maybe he doesn't. I think he weighed in at under 160, Rob Dillingham.
He's one of the lightest players in the draft.
I think what I heard was 156 at the combine.
Yeah.
That's really, really light. So you're going to have to bring him in. He's explosive. He's a good player. He's going to actually be really good on Minnesota, adding basically that 6th man, 7th man, 8th, whatever he's going to be. But he'll add more depth for them scoring off the bench, which is a big part of, when you're trying to make runs for a title like Minnesota is, and you come up a little bit short and you're not able to score. He's a guy that you can put in a microwave and he just goes, right? So I like it for Minnesota. But what the Spurs get back in it is a 2030 pick swap in that's number 1 overall protected, just that, and completely unprotected 2031. Unprotected picks didn't get traded that often back in the day, or even 5-10 years ago. You didn't trade unprotected picks. You had some sort of limitation on them. Normally it'd be top 3 protected, top 10 protected, top 8, whatever it is. But you'd have some protection that in case you were bad, you're not screwed. Not the case anymore because teams stopped wanting to make those deals because a 10th pick in a draft isn't that valuable. So what we want from you is the chance that you're going to be bad then.
Bad, yeah.
For the Spurs, they can say historically, the Timberwolves have not spent money to stay good. So they could have a championship window that's going to open from 2025 to 2020 to 2030.
It's like playing the market. It's kind of playing the stock market. It's like, all right, we're going to guess that they're going to be bad in 5 years.
We're going to say historically that they won't be great in 5 years. And so if we can get a lottery pick when we think we'll be hitting our window in 3 or 4 years, and we think, near that end of the first contract with Wemby is where we're going to really hit our window, then we'll open it up. And then we can add in really good pieces when we have no more room for free agency. And so we're trying to add, and we may need to add another piece somewhere in there. We lose a player, we can replace them. We have those picks down the road. Also, these picks may not even make it to 2030, 2031. They may be ammunition to trade somewhere else to go pick somebody else up. So they could be in that. But I think the biggest factor for them was they looked at Rob Dillingham and they said, we'd rather add a veteran than another young player that we're going to have to try and evolve and teach defense and teach all these things. Let's try and use this cap space on somebody else, whether it's in a trade or whether it's a free agent signing. That would be more my guess. They wanted to save that money. They're kind of in a cramped space of cap room right now where they can probably open up some more, but they're trying to figure out how to build their roster, and that was going to limit them more and more if they picked him up. And if you're picking Rob Dillingham, once you've picked him and the trade's not done, that becomes a harder move to trade than Minnesota calling that they do want him. But it should tell you how people view the draft. That's all you get for the 8th pick in the draft.
Yeah,
that's a good point. But I get why they did it. As I said earlier, Spurs Twitter was not thrilled about it because that it's so far down the road in 2030 and 2031 that when you see that, you're like, well, Wemby's going to be a 6-time MVP in some other team by then because we're never going to be. They just and there's a lot of people where politics play more in their mind than Pop's record as a coach. And so they don't like his politics. So they hate Pop and they think he's a lunatic and he's crazy. So they just don't like him, even though he's clearly shown that he's one of the greatest coaches of all time. That is no longer a factor. Politics play a place. And I get it. It's how people's minds work. And mine does it too at points. So, not throwing shade on anybody, but the reality is he's a really good coach. He's been a really good general manager. They've done a great job. It was funny to see him and Tim Duncan in the draft room wearing shorts and T-shirts like they were probably just on the basketball court before the drafts. But I think overall, the Mavs didn't do anything crazy. They didn't try and trade up and get back into the first and take anybody. That would have been the most surprising. The Rockets go ahead and get their guy. There was rumors they may go with Klingon, which I kind of would have liked. I kind of would have liked him there because they do need rim protection as much as they need offense and they need rim protection. I know those are two weird things. They're a really good defensive team, but their rim protection and rebounding was pretty awful. Şengün is not great at necessarily rim protection, and he can be a good rebounder, but he isn't always. So that would have been nice to see him there, but I get he drops down to Portland, which Portland really wanted him. Portland has two centers on that roster already. Because they got Robert Smith in the trade from Boston, and he got hurt, so they didn't play him at all last year, so he's a trade bait now if he can come back and be healthy. And then they just traded for DeAndre Ayton from the Suns. And so I don't know where you put it when you're 3 of your better players on your roster are all centers. And you just drafted your 7th pick overall or 9th pick overall. Klingon there is available. I like Klingon too, but it was just a weird. As much as everyone's like, they needed a center, you're like, yeah, but they have centers. And he's going to just bring up new problems because he's not an offensive player, really. So I think you could see that those guys may be on the move. One or both of those guys could be traded this offseason as well for Portland. They could be trying to ditch some of those salaries for DeAndre Ayton, which has not worked out since he signed that contract in Phoenix.
Oh, man. Yeah, he's kind of disappeared. Really, the Phoenix, that roster construction period has failed. That's a failed experiment.
It is, and that's people thought that they maybe would. That's why people would keep calling about. Ishbia put out a statement that Kevin Durant Phoenix loves Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant loves Phoenix.
Yeah, the Rockets were trying to get KD.
Everyone's trying to get KD. Everybody wants him. And, depending on, where your thought process is, the Mavs were even rumored to be looking at KD.
Yeah. Which one's better? Which one would you want now, KD or Booker?
It depends. It depends on, where you're looking at long term and monetarily. Like the thing with Kevin Durant is he's 6'11". So he is somebody that can come in and be a rim protector for you as well. Yeah. He can do a lot of different things for you, where Booker's really good, but he's a shooting guard.
Yeah, he doesn't have as many matchup advantages and doesn't create as many matchup.
He's also a lot younger. So if you want to build around him, but it feels like if you're drafting Kevin Durant, you're putting him on a team that's already built, and he's supposed to be your last piece. If you draft Devin Booker, that's your guy. Because if Devin Booker goes to the Rockets, he's the best player on the Rockets.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, it almost feels like both of them, at least the NBA believes, both of them are available.
And the NBA does, because the NBA understands that the Suns are not close to winning a championship with this roster.
Yeah. You got two of the best players in the league. You're like the Angels. You're like, hey man, you got two of the best players in the league and you suck. Can you would you mind having a conversation with us? Because we're pretty close, and all we need is one of them dudes.
And we can give you some pieces so you can expedite your
rebuild. Yeah.
But that's Ishbia put out a statement yesterday on Twitter that he said that that Phoenix loves Kevin Durant and Kevin Durant loves Phoenix. So he's not going
put
anywhere.
Some butts in seats, man.
He does, and I think he wants to. He believes in his head that they can run it back this year and the results will be better. They just weren't healthy enough. And you go, yes, because you have an aging team, and aging teams are never going to be that healthy. Young teams will be healthier than aging teams.
Yeah, like next year is going to change. It's going to be even worse next year potentially.
Yeah.
No, it's interesting because I saw the Rockets were trying to make that trade for Kevin Durant. That would have been crazy.
They still are.
Shows you how aggressive they're being. They're being aggressive.
Oh,
but he's thinking about it.
My guess is they will make a move before the season because their ownership, Kevin Fertitta, really wants to compete for a title. Ime Udoka wants to compete for a title. I don't think they're a piece away from it. They're still a couple years away from it because they have to figure out what they're going to do with Jalen Green and Jabari Smith. And we don't really know what Şengün is going to be as time goes on, whether he's going to progress and figure out the rest of his game and be a really great player, or if he's going to regress a little bit and be a really good offensive player, but the defense is going to hurt him and he doesn't pass the ball well enough, that he can't become that guy on a championship team. We just don't know those factors yet. So I would say their window is probably in 2 to 3 years if they can add some pieces in and draft well. But they want to go. I get it. These are billionaire owners who are not used to losing, and they don't want to.
Hey, when their billionaire owner wants to spend money, go with it. Yeah, so I'm as a Rockets fan, I'm a little bit excited about the possibility of them bringing in a proven commodity potentially this offseason. All right, good stuff there. You know what? Let's table it. Let's go to break early, and then we'll come back and we can play a lot of the slosh sound. We'll get into a ton of it. Let's make sure we stay. I want to stay on time here so we can have a big behind the burnt orange curtain segment, and we'll turn it into the slosh segment. So slosh was introduced officially to the Texas media and to the media period as the new head coach of the Texas baseball team. He spoke about a number of different topics. We come back, we'll hear from the new head coach of Texas baseball, dive behind the burnt orange curtain, and talk some of the right now what may have been the most active, engaged I've ever seen Longhorn fans on Twitter the last 48 hours. So we'll come back and discuss the last 48 to 72 hours and how it all has really kind of come to a point of critical mass here at the University of Texas with Slosh now becoming the head baseball coach. All that and more when we return right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis and Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers coming back on the horn. All right, let's get to it. We saw Coach Schlossnagle introduced yesterday as the Texas baseball coach, and it was a pretty lengthy press conference after he was introduced. I want to say it went on about 30 minutes. Him and obviously kind of talking about the experience and him, his journey from TCU to Texas A&M to Texas, and he answered questions as well. And some of those questions were difficult questions for him to answer about some very delicate topics. Him leaving A&M, the reporter that he had to exchange with after the championship game. So we'll hear from Coach Schloss addressing those issues, and I'll give him some props too, because he actually apologized to the reporter at the beginning of the press conference. So something obviously that was on his heart that he didn't feel good about, and he was heavily criticized for the way that he handled that in his response. And so I'm glad he cleared that up. But first, if you're, one of the first rules of public speaking, if you were trying to win over the audience, trying to win over the crowd, is to know your audience. You got to know your audience. And I'll give Schloss credit. I think he won the press conference because he definitely checked the box on that rule, knowing your audience. He had an Augie Garrido story that he dropped in there, kind of midway through the press conference. That was brilliant timing. And of course, it just captivated the hearts of all Longhorn fans alike, because Augie Garrido is such a revered and iconic figure among the Longhorn community. So here's where I think Schloss won the press conference, when he dropped the Augie story that apparently he had in his back pocket that nobody heard. Here's Coach Schlossnagle.
Yeah, so Augie, let me address the first one first. Augie, I can't remember the year, 15 or 16 maybe. We played in Fort Worth, and the game ended, and I had always wanted to be close to Augie and learn more about him, but I didn't play for him or work for him. And he pulled me to the side during a rain delay and said, "I want you to come see me this summer." And so during the recruiting season, I was in California. I flew to Orange County Airport. Augie picked me up. We had a great dinner, as he loved great food and drink. And we had a long conversation about his future and what it was like to be the baseball coach at Texas. And I'll never say that there was any place that's ever been my dream job. I've loved every single place that I've ever been. As an assistant coach, to be real frank with you, my dream job was to be the coach at TCU, because that was the program that I felt like needed or had the most space to grow. I'm from Western Maryland. I never envisioned that I would get to be the coach at Texas A&M or the University of Texas. I only ever saw those things on TV.
There you go. That's Coach Schloss talking about how Augie Garrido pulled him to the side once to mentor him. And I think a lot of Longhorn fans, that brought them back a little bit. There was some nostalgia there, hearing that Augie approved of Schloss. To me, that's kind of what that was. Like, hey, just so you know, Augie approved of me. Augie, I know he's considered, one of the godfathers here at Texas coaching, and RIP to the late great Augie Garrido. And that was him. And Alex, I don't know if it was him or CDC saying, hey, if you got an Augie story, man, it's a great time to pull it out. But that was him, Patrick, letting the fans know, hey, Augie, when he was with us, he thought I was a hell of a coach and approved of me actually potentially, succeeding him here at the University of Texas.
Yeah, no, so, I mean, and you saw him even at the very beginning thank Cliff Gustafson as well.
Yes, he did. Yes.
He knew to thank
know
him.
Your audience.
You knew to know the audience, and he, if you coach against Texas long enough, and you're in the state of Texas, and you know Texas baseball history because they are a blue blood, and so there's enough that makes sense that he's played against. He coached against Augie for a while, so he knew him as an opponent, and I'm sure there was parts where you talk and you went, well, that's the big one right there. That's the big school right there.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's the guys who are going to Omaha. Those are the guys winning the national championship. So I'm going to look at them in that kind of light, and that's a national championship coach right there. And whether, anybody you play against who's a national championship coach when you're a coach, I'm sure you're going to look at it a little differently.
Yes, no question. But being top of mind, like you said. I'm glad you brought the Coach Gus reference. Yeah, he knows. Like I said, he's just savvy enough to know it as a ball coach, or he's got the right people around him saying, "Hey, just drop some of them references in there. Trust me, it's gonna go over real well with this audience."
we can walk past some statues. You might want to mention them.
Right, even in that room they had it in with all the national championship trophies. Yeah. Well done there, CDC or John Bianco, whoever arranged that. I like that too. I'm not sure what the SID is for baseball, but job well done. He also had a message to the players, and I've always said this, and I've said this on these airwaves, and I've said it, for the last 10 years. Coaches, God bless them, we all love them. They're caretakers of the program. The program doesn't belong to them. They're caretakers of it. And, they have been at times representing other schools when they are paid to do so. And they probably, after they leave Texas, if Texas fires them or parts ways with them, they'll take another job, and then they'll be throwing up their hand sign and wearing their colors. Robbie won't ever do that. I'm a Longhorn. It'll be on my tombstone. I bleed burnt orange. That's all I'll ever be. Most of y'all fans out there, same way. So for the players and for the fans, I've always said the program belongs to them. The coaches and even CDC, God bless them, is doing an amazing job. Those guys are caretakers of the program. There'll be something else, that they'll identify as in their lives or in their professional careers. I won't identify as anything other than I'm a Longhorn. Even the guys these days are a little bit different because of the transfer portal. So it's even a little bit different than it used to be back in my day, right? But my point is, players and fans, they're not paid for their loyalty. No, I take that back now. Some of the players are because of NIL, so got to change that. My take's a little antiquated, but fans are not paid for their loyalty. But coaches and administrative folks like CDC, they are, and God bless them. They bleed orange, but at one point he was bleeding purple, and at one point Mac Brown was bleeding whatever the hell North Carolina's baby blue is. All right, and he's still bleeding, and that's great.
Carolina blue, I believe.
Carolina blue, whatever it is, right? It's great. All right, good for them. But I bleed orange. So and I'm glad. And this is one thing about knowing your audience. Once again, his message to the players, Coach Sloss's message to the players, it reflected that sentiment that I've had, that I think a lot of student athletes have had. Here's Coach Sloss.
To the former players at the University of Texas, this is your program. The program belongs to you. You are always welcome. Many I've known from across the field during my time at TCU and Texas A&M. Cody Clemens killing me. I've only missed a baseball game 2 times in my life for my children, my son Jackson and my daughter Katie. Just a quick story. And so one of the games I missed was my son's graduation, TCU at Texas. I have the game on my phone, trying to be quiet. We're up a run in the 9th. Augie Milbauer's pitching, and Cody hits a walk-off homer. That was a tough day. But the program belongs to the former players. And to the current and future players, the program belongs to you as well. My job is to steward this program. One thing Augie said to me one day is, if you decide to ever come to Texas, this will never be your program. And I've never felt that TCU, UNLV, Texas A&M was ever my program. My program's Elon. It's in North Carolina. And that's my school. My job is to steward this program and oversee this program and continue to grow this program to a championship level on a daily basis. So to the current players and the future players, that's what we'll be doing.
God bless Slosh and that message. Great message. He also had a message for the fans in regards to Texas baseball now under new leadership. Here's Coach Slosh.
Lastly, to the Longhorn fans, we need you. Please know that this is not a job for me. This is a lifestyle. I don't play golf. I don't hunt or go fish every now and then when I get a free day, but I don't have many hobbies. My hobbies are to be around our players and to help them get better. And our job is to fill Dish Falk. We need it to become one of the elite atmospheres in the SEC, not just on the SEC weekends, but every single night. So thank you. Appreciate the opportunity to be here. Super excited to get to work. Hook 'em.
All right, let's go Slosh. So like that message, know your audience. So I think he won the press conference. As Patrick mentioned, that was a Coach Gus shout out. There was a Clemens family shout out for Cody Clemens. He had multiple Augie references in there about Augie approving of him and saying, hey, if you ever come to Texas, do this, do that. Oh, well done, Coach. Well done. Knows the audience. So good stuff. And this is why I also think he won the press conference, because he showed humility. We all talked about him leaving Texas A&M and how it could have been done maybe in a more delicate fashion, right? It could have been something that had been handled a little bit better. He acknowledged that in multiple ways. Matter of fact, unsolicited. I believe he starts off at one of the early parts of the press conference to apologize to Richard Zane, the reporter. Here is Coach Slosh.
OB, I'm glad you're here. I was asked a question after our game the other night. We're playing for the national championship. And as I said in my press conference when I took the A&M job, there would never be a time that I wasn't invested in that program. And there never was a time I wasn't invested. I gave when I say our staff, we gave everything we possibly could to win that last ball game. And when the game ended, I want to publicly apologize to Richard Zane from TexAgs. He's a young reporter. He asked the question. That was an obvious question. I wish I could have answered that better. But in the moment, 30 minutes after the last pitch, all I could think about was our players. And I really wasn't in the mood to talk about myself or the future. So I apologize for that to Richard.
There you go. Classy move by Coach, recognizing, hey, mistakes were made. And mistakes will always be made. As long as you are the bigger person, take the high road and apologize for it and look at it as a learning experience, which I'm sure Coach does. It's all good. So Coach was asked also about that response, asked to follow up with it. And, what do you say to Aggies after you said, you moved your family there and your intention was, not to have to move your family again. And, obviously the passionate response that he had, he was asked to address, what Aggies are supposed to think about that. How would they process you having such a passionate plea after the game and then within 24 hours being announced as the new Texas head baseball coach here, Slosh?
Well, I didn't intentionally mislead them. And that's a very fair question for you to ask because that is what I said. In that moment, that's exactly how I felt. At 50 years old, you got to understand, and Chris would probably back me up on this, I love TCU. My children grew up there, Fort Worth. I was there 18 years, and it had to be a very unique situation for me to leave that at 50 years old. I love Coach Garrido, but I hope I get to coach here for a long time. But I don't really have any plans on coaching to 75, 78 years old. So I made that choice because it aligned both personally and professionally with what I had going on at the time. And I loved it. And I dove in with every single ounce of me to help A&M have the very best baseball program it can possibly have. And that investment lasted through the last pitch of the national championship game. It never wavered, not 1 second. I don't care what anybody says. As Chris likes to say, we have jobs and try to run a business on other people's passion. And if I had left Texas A&M for some other school in a different part of the country, the interesting text messages and messages that I got yesterday probably wouldn't have happened. But I get it. You can't ask for your fan base to support you and be passionate like the 12th man always has been, but really was this year. Our crowds were awesome. Every single game. And so you can't ask for that like I did and our staff did, and then expect everybody to be okay with a coach leaving for its rival school. And I get it. All I can say is I have a career too. I have a personal life as well, that I have goals, and I just simply felt like no negative at A&M, just the positives of the alignment and frankly my relationship with Chris, that I knew there wasn't anybody at Texas A&M that I couldn't trust. I just know that I can trust Chris. I just know that. And as hard as that decision was, I could not walk away from it.
I said he couldn't walk away from it. And listen, at worst, Aggies fans got to accept that, he just flat out lied about, what he's doing. Or at best, and I said this about the coaches too, coaches compartmentalize really well. That when they have that uniform on and when they are with that team, that's what they're representing. And then once it's off and once the season is done, then they can flip the switch. And it's like, oh no, I'm a member of the Texas Longhorn staff. Whether you want to believe that or not, or you can believe that. And I've said about coaches before too. There's must-lose situations for some of these coaches. When they have the uniform on, they're talking to the players in the locker room. They just got done talking to them. They're about to go talk to the athletic director, the boss. Not a lot of people want to keep it real in that moment. They don't. They'd rather just flat out lie. And I say it's my ugly baby scenario. Nobody with an ugly baby knows they have one. Why? Because it's a must-lose situation. You see an ugly baby? That baby's precious, looks just like you. It's amazing. It's beautiful. God bless you. There are no ugly babies in this world. So go ahead and go with peace. It's the same thing with these coaches. They're in a must-lose situation. What are they supposed to say? If they say anything other than a flat-out denial, then everybody's going to assume, okay, they're going to read between the lines and say, oh, they must be leaving. Even when it's the worst kept secret out there. So I'm not going to judge coach either way, and whether he was an extremely compartmentalizing, right, an extreme way, or if he was just flat out misleading them and lying. I've seen it both. I've seen Saban do it. I've seen Roy Williams do it. I've seen Elko just did it when he said he was going to stay and he didn't stay. I mean, it happens all the time. Literally, almost every time a coach getting ready to leave, you probably can have there's probably an instance where he was asked about it and either misled folks or was it a must-lose situation. I get it. And I say I like it. I'm just saying I get it.
No, I mean, in life in general, there's conversations you have in front of your boss and conversations you have not in front of your boss. And there's conversations, if you're a boss, that you have in front of your employees, and there's conversations you don't have in front of your employees. That's just how life is, there's some things you go, I can't say this right now. So I'm going to say the thing that's as close to truth as I can say, which is I really did put everything into coaching here, and I don't know what tomorrow holds. I think I do, but I don't know for sure what tomorrow holds. So I'm going to tell you right now, this is what I've done, and I don't want you to take anything away from this. Because otherwise, if he misled him, the reality would have been if he would have walked out and said, no, I will be here next season.
Yeah. And then, obviously took the other job. Then they'd be like, oh, he's a flat out liar. And it's like, well, what did you want him to say? He's in a lose-lose situation. He's in a lose-lose right there. Because if he says, hey guys, I don't want to talk about that right now, they're going to like, oh, he didn't deny it.
Yeah.
Unless you deny it flat out, they're going to be dissatisfied. And even when you do deny it flat out and still take the job, they're going to call you a liar. It is a lose-lose situation.
You know what he should have done is when that guy asked the question, he should have just been like, well, if you guys don't trust me, I'm gone. I quit. Bye.
Right? Blame it on the media. Blame them for it. Okay, so also one of the other conversations about the timeline here. CDC says on the record now, he has stated they did not have they did not have communication about the job specifically until after he was done in the championship game. That's what CDC says. And I believe the account by Coach Slosh is backing it up. So here's Coach Slosh asked about addressing players and then the timeline of this whole communication and negotiation.
Yeah. Let me address that last one first. Like I'm a pretty transparent guy. Like it's miserable. The same thing happened at TCU. I was able to call all of those players. I'm still in the process of calling the ones that I'm allowed to call. If a guy has exhausted his eligibility, I can do that. But there will be some players that I don't get to call. That's why my first year at A&M, we played TCU in the regional. And when I saw those kids on the field, that was the first time I had gotten a chance to communicate with them. The rules don't allow me to text them happy birthday, or if something bad happened in their life, like I'm not allowed to talk to them. And so I tried to preview what could happen when we got back with a few guys before the decision was made, just to give them a little bit of a heads up that I did have a decision to make. Chris and I have been lifelong friends. We talk all the time, but Texas had a baseball coach. And I think once you'd have to ask him, but once they made that decision, then at the end of our game the other night, then we had some serious conversation. I touched base with my staff, let them know this was a possibility. And then he came over to visit with me yesterday, and we made the decision.
That throat clear at the end is pretty damning. This one the decision. He was like, yeah. So he was asked to clarify the timeline a little bit. Here is the last cut. He's clarifying the timeline of when he and CDC started to talk about the actual job vacancy. Here is Slosh.
No, Chris and I talk all the time, but we had no, he had a coach. There was no bare bones discussion of this. I mean, this is always, when I was at TCU, these rumors have always been around because of our relationship, and I can't control that. If you ask our coaches, they have had to deal with it since the day I got to Texas A&M. I mean, I had a specific buyout specifically for the University of Texas, and that's because of my relationship with Chris. And so, thankfully, it's really not a question we'll ever have to answer again.
Oh, so it did divulge like, hey, I had a specific stipulation in my contract, a buyout just for the University of Texas. That is interesting. And yeah, he's basically saying they have the cover of a pre-existing relationship. So no matter what you're trying to find out, you'll never figure out if they indeed started talking about the job vacancy prior to the championship game, that last game, because they talk all the time. So you're like, yeah, of course we were talking. We talk all the time about everything because we're really close. And I believe it? No, I believe they've been talking about that job probably, for a few weeks or a couple of weeks. But there's no way to prove otherwise. So that's CDC story. That is Slosh's story, and they're sticking to it. Period. There you go. No matter what you think, you can't prove otherwise because they talk all the time and have a pre-existing relationship. So did they talk before that? Of course they were texting and talking before that because they do all the time. How are you going to prove that what they were talking about? Now, CDC did divulge that when he went down there to pick up, Coach Slosh, he basically waited in a graveyard because he felt that was the best place to wait because no Aggies there would recognize him. And it is pretty savvy because in a graveyard, you don't make eye contact. You don't stare at people in the graveyard. It's a graveyard. It's a solemn place. You go about your business and, you leave people alone dealing with their business. And it's a good place to wait. Not going to lie. Brilliant move.
That was like the Chris Beard. I remember they had to meet at like a small town McDonald's or something like that because he couldn't go to Lubbock, and then Chris Beard couldn't be seen with him there, so they had to go.
Love it. It's fantastic. Love it. All right, there you go. So that's Coach Slosh being introduced as the new head coach at Texas. All right, we come back. We got off the record. This is a weird, strange story involving Patrick Mahomes and an old NFL rule that they refuse to change. All that and more right here on the Rodcast, featuring Patrick Davis and Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers coming back on the horn. Okay, so according to CBS, according to this CBS Sport, that there's a report out there, that because the NFL has a long-standing rule. Their rule is that their players cannot do, like they can't do ads for any alcohol or beer companies. The NFL doesn't allow players to do it, like specifically for alcohol and beer. As you probably notice, like that doesn't happen. So there's a rumor out there that that basically Coors Light, that they have hidden, that they basically had done a commercial with Patrick Mahomes, a beer commercial, and they've like hidden it in like a time capsule or something until the NFL changes the rule, or when they change the rule. That basically they believe that it's going to change soon, and if it doesn't change, it'll stay there. But when they change it, apparently this rumor is that they have it in a time capsule, and they're going to have
just ready to go.
Basically,
they're like the day that rule gets passed, commercial going to be on tomorrow.
Patrick Mahomes Coors Light commercial to avoid punishment. The NFL has from the NFL, they've hidden a time capsule. They say. I don't know if it's actually literally in there, or they're just saying figuratively, we won't air it and you won't ever see it.
Yeah, it's just a flash drive. It's in a time capsule.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know what way. That's it's interesting. I never thought about that, but yeah, the NFL, that is an archaic rule though, and I guess maybe every league has that rule. Now that I'm thinking about it. I don't know if I can think of any athletes that really have alcohol and beer like that. Am I? Oh, in the actual ad themselves.
I'm trying to. I mean, because there's ex-players.
There's ex-players. I'm trying to think about it.
JJ Watt, would they have to pull, if JJ Watt returned to the Texans in the postseason, would they have to pull his Miller Lite commercials?
You're right. It does have those. I almost feel like they do, but then now that I'm thinking about it, I really can't think of many. But no, that's apparently that's a thing. We'll see. Okay, we'll come back. We'll get into the NBA draft a little bit. We'll also hear from Steve Sarkisian. He spoke with Greg McElroy in his Always College Football podcast. We'll also have Raj rant. I'm ranting against the EA Sports College Football video game, not because I'm an old man, but just because the EA Sports College Football video game is going to be lacking one of these signature elements that makes college football so fun. We'll discuss it. All of that and more right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis and Tom Longhorn. Rod Babers coming back on the horn. Hey, what's up, folks? Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers. Aside from the traffic, we all love Austin because it's a great city. We're not the only ones. It's actually one of the fastest growing cities in the country because people keep moving to Austin, and it's no surprise. The people are great. The food is fantastic. The culture is fantastic as well. The music is out of this world, and many of the iconic landmarks that make this city so unique were actually built and constructed by the skilled craftsmanship of Ironworkers Local 482, and that's also one of the reasons that we love Austin, right? The unique aesthetic appeal of the DKR Stadium, the Pennybacker Bridge, other iconic landmarks, and those two, along with others, were built by the skilled craftsmanship of Ironworkers Local 482. And right now, they're hiring over 3,000 people for another big project right here in Central Texas, and they need your help. They're offering competitive wages, competitive benefits, pension plan. They even offer training for unskilled labor through their apprenticeship program. So right now, it's a perfect time for you to become a member of Ironworkers Local 482. If you're looking for an exciting employment opportunity or a refreshing career change, maybe you're looking for a new challenge, or you're just looking for a position where you're valued, you can become a valued member of Ironworkers Local 482, and right now it's the perfect time to do it. Go online and apply today at ironworkers482.org. That's ironworkers482.org. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. It is a new theme Thursday, and the new theme always, created by my man Patrick Davis, the Idealionaire, as we call him on the show, and my co-host. He's the one that handles all the music theme days. And Thursday comes up with a really creative theme. Today it's summertime, and all the jams reference and celebrate that theme. And today we're celebrating summertime. This is easily the most recognizable summertime jam that's about the summertime. It literally is about the summertime, talking about nothing but the summertime.
Yeah, I mean it's up there of, especially for like our generation a bit more.
Oh man. And it might be Will Smith's best song, like in terms of just how
as it's not as Will Smithy.
Eternal it is.
Yeah, it's not as Will Smithy.
Yeah, great point. It's a good point. Yeah, it's less Will Smithy, and so it's almost got this eternal quality about it, where it stands the test of time.
Because like,
as opposed to his other stuff, it's like I would never listen to any of that stuff.
You're not listening to Getting Jiggy with It?
Not jiggy with it. Not Men in Black. And then I say they were good jams
Wild
at the
Wild
time.
West.
Wild Wild West, or Mama. Parents just don't understand. Or
that second verse. I still tell you that second verse is a sharp departure from the first verse.
I gotta go back and listen because you told me about this before. I gotta go back.
I'm telling you, hey, if you just listen to the first verse is basically, we went to the mall and my mom wanted me to buy cheaper clothes and they weren't as cool. How am I gonna be cool at school with these clothes? That's first verse. Pretty simple. Parents just don't understand. Makes sense. Verse 2 includes Grand Theft Auto and statutory rape. So it escalates very quickly.
So you said he was borderline getting into some other stuff, and then
he's like, it just starts out with like, my mom wants to go to that, and then he's like, and then my mom was out of town, so I stole her car, and then was driving around, and I picked up a girl, and then it gets hotter with the girl, and then the line that really ruins it, the line that really ruins the song, because he gotta pick the age. It's a story, it's made up, and then he says we got pulled over. And we found out she was a 12-year-old runaway. And you're like, 12, Will?
Whoa!
12
is that real? Is that a line?
That's
in
the lyric.
Damn.
He picked 12. And I get 13 is another syllable. And I get adding a teen onto it makes another syllable. Make that work. You could have made it 16 and all of us would have been fine with it. But
how
12,
old is he when he made that song?
So I think in the song he's supposed to be like 16, 17. I think.
Still.
I agree. It's still awful.
Even at 16, 17, it's still awful. That is still horrible. Wow. Man, the stuff that used to be acceptable back in the day.
Yeah. No, I'm just
telling you. Wonder why we need enlightenment. We needed to be enlightened as a people. There was some stuff that we were accepting that just did not need to be.
It's one of those things where you see it, and I know exactly what it was, which the lyrics were probably she was a 14-year-old, 15-year-old runaway, something like that. And they were like, wow, the timing's off. 12 is one syllable, so just use 12.
Oh man, I gotta tell you, I didn't go. He didn't go.
Hey, how about I don't say that?
How about I'm a lyricist. How about I make it work like you said with 15? I'll figure out a way to put the teen in. I'll make it work.
She's a year younger than me, and it's okay. Wow. Yeah, no. Wow. I tell you, it is a stark contrast of first verse, second verse. Stark contrast.
I did not realize that at all. Only you have ever. You're the only person that's ever brought that to my attention.
I love ruining that song for people. It's hilarious to me every time, and you don't really ruin it because it's not a song anybody listens to anymore, and that's why no one realizes that it says that. It's just hilarious that I heard it one day. And it was one of those things that's like playing on a mix of songs, and then that song comes up, and you're listening to it, and you're like, "Wait, you stole a car? Okay, that is crazy." And then you hear the word 12, and you're like, "Whoa, whoa!"
Hello, he got stopped by the cops. What happened when he got stopped by the cops? No, I'm interested. They take him to jail?
No, I don't think so. I think it was I got picked at, like, they saw it, and then I think it's just like a 12-year-old runaway. Parents just don't understand. You're like, your parents are right, Will. Listen to your parents.
Listen to your parents. You probably should have been going to jail there, Will. All right. Goodness. All right, there you go. See, I'm sorry that man Patrick had to spoil parents just don't understand for you, but there you go. I learn something new every day in our musically themed days of the week. Didn't know how we got there, but I'm glad now I know it. Now I got to go listen to that song. Now I got to go listen to that song now.
Yeah. Just a second
to
verse.
Hear it for myself. Just to hear it for myself. Yeah. Oh man, that is sick. Okay. Topic for the big fat poll of the day that is already up on the Twitter in the X on the X account for Horn ATX. Go check it out. And my man Patrick wants to know who you think is the best second round pick of all time. I haven't checked it lately. I'm gonna see where Manu's finishing in this.
Let's
thing.
see. Manu is he's still behind. He's still behind right now.
Okay. Yeah, 38. Yeah, I mean, Jokic should win this thing. I mean, that's Jokic based on individual accolades, he's easily the greatest second round pick of all time.
Yeah,
now,
individual accolades. Yes, team accolades.
Individual accolades, yes.
Individual accolades, Rodman and Manu, more titles.
Yes. Oh, no doubt.
I mean, Kukoc more titles. Draymond more titles.
Damn, yeah, Draymond still got 0. Still not one person has voted for Draymond on this.
Good job, guys. You understood the assignment.
Right? You set Draymond up for failure, though, on that one.
Yeah,
Manu,
purposely.
then Jokic, you set him up for, then Rodman. It's like, well, just out of respect, Rodman gets some, and Draymond gets none. But Rodman used to be a Spur one time, too, though. He has some Spur.
That was not a great, him and Pop didn't get along.
Yeah.
I used to have a shirt that I wish I still had that was Rodman, and then his hair was like a mood ring.
Oh, no.
No, so it would change with the temperature.
It would change colors based on like the heat. Or
yeah,
like
the temperature of that. Wow. It would change. It was a cool shirt. I wish I still had that. It was like
it's in Texas. Isn't it always that close to the same color when you was wearing it out? Because it's hot as hell.
I don't know. It changed colors. Maybe when you took it off, it changed colors. But.
No, I remember those kind of shirts. So I remember actually having some of those as a kid. You thought that was cool back in the day. I remember that. No, any kind of Rodman Spur stuff you should have kept though. I mean, I should have. Couldn't have had a lot of Rodman memorabilia Spur.
As a kid.
That's what I'm saying.
I mean, he was hugely popular when he was here.
Oh, I know he was. I'm saying, but they probably stopped making it quickly because how long was he on the squad?
Year and a half.
A year? Yeah, so they didn't make a ton. They made like this for that time. It was like, all right, we're done. Pop don't like it.
You still see the jerseys pop up every once in a while.
That's what I'm saying. I bet that'd be pretty cool to have a Spurs. I guess you probably can get one made or something like that.
That's also, did you hear the story that Sean Kemp was telling about when he was saying when the Bulls Michael Jordan didn't beat him? Dennis Rodman beat him? For the 70s.
I want to say I saw this on my timeline.
Yeah,
actually,
he was basically saying that during the finals, that Rodman figured out that their center that they needed to be like a rebounder and tough guy. He would guard him, and he put in these color contacts and starts kissing on his arms. And he's like, and it was like he just got completely in his head. And he was like, Rodman ain't like that, but he was like, Rodman knew how to get in his head, and it just
he started kissing on his arm.
Put in color contacts and started kissing on his arm.
See, and y'all think Draymond Green knows how to be an instigator? that is brilliant instigating right there. He's like, I put in the color contact and I started kissing on his arm, and it's like, how does that not get in your head as a basketball player? You're expecting him to elbow. You're expecting him to get a knee to the groin, something there, something to really take you out of your game. Some trash talk about your mama or your wife. Nope, I'll kiss you on your arms. And it's like, how is that not in my head? I got thinking about that all the time. I'm running down the floor that this dude is like cuddling up next to me now. That is wild. That is wild. But you're right. They give him credit because how's that not live rent free in your head? How does it not?
He knows what he's doing.
It's brilliant. All right, there you go. So a little random anecdotal stuff for to start the 9:00 hour. We're off the rails because it's 9:00 hour. We're almost done. But before we get done, we're going to play some audio of Steve Sarkisian talking to Greg McElroy. We'll also get into Rod's rant. I want to rant about the EA Sports video game. I think they left something out of the game very important. So we'll get to those topics. But first, let's get updated. Let's get educated. Let's get informed on all the top stories of the day with Patrick Davis and the Horn Headlines.
All right, the Horn Headlines brought to you by Top Gun Rentals and Lawn Equipment. In the NBA, round one of the draft commenced last night with two French players taking the top two spots, with Zachary Risacher going number 1 to the Hawks and Alex Sarr going number 2 to the Wizards. The Rockets use their number 3 pick to take Kentucky freshman Reed Shepherd, who's thought to be the best shooter in the draft. And the Spurs added UConn guard Stephon Castle at the number 4 pick and traded the number 8 pick, who became Rob Dillingham, to Minnesota for a 2031 unprotected first-round pick and 2030 pick swap. In Major League Baseball, the Astros extended their win streak to 7 games with a 7-1 win over the Rockies. The win gets the Astros to an even .500 record for the first time this season and puts them 4.5 games over Seattle, or behind Seattle, in the AL West. Spencer Arguetti pitched 7 innings, striking out 10 to get the win behind plenty of run support, with Altuve and Diaz adding 2 RBIs each. The Astros now head to New York to take on the Mets starting Friday. And the Rangers dropped another game to the Brewers 6-5 after a Monasterio walk-off hit in the 10th inning. Nate Lowe had 3 RBIs in the game, but struck out in the top of the 10th inning, allowing the Brewers to pick up the win and sweep in the series. John Gray, who had a commanding start in his last outing takes him out for the Rangers tonight as they begin a 4-game series with the Orioles. That is your Horn headlines.
All right, thank you, Patrick, for the Horn headlines. All right, let's get right to it. I want to get to these pieces of audio here for Steve Sarkisian. He's making the rounds in the offseason, so I know you guys want to hear from Sark, but we don't necessarily hear from him via the traditional local media here during the off season. So he does a lot of the national shows. And he recently was on with Greg McElroy for his Always College Football podcast. Talked about a lot of different things and a lot of different positions specifically. They kind of went down the position groups, which I thought was interesting. So we'll start with D tackles here because we started with quarterbacks last time. So we'll work our way backwards. D tackles, DBs, and then work our way up to quarterback. But Sark was asked about D tackles because you lost Devondre Sweat, you lost Byron Murphy. That was the best D tackle duo in the country, probably the second best D tackle duo in the history of Texas football. And Sark was asked, like, how do you replace those guys? That is an area of concern. I was a little surprised what Sark had to say. Here's Steve Sarkisian.
I think without question that the area that stands out the most is his leadership. This is his team.
Yeah.
And, year one, you're coming in and you transfer, you're just trying to figure it out. Year two, I think he was really ready to step into the role. He gets injured against Bama. He's out. He has to come back. He's working his way back. That was year one. Year two, he gets that injury against Houston, and then he's trying to work his way back. This offseason, this year, he is definitely much more vocal, much more command of what we're doing, and has earned our trust, quite frankly, and to get us in and out of some things. And but just his command and his leadership with a lot of new receivers, you definitely see that. But a lot, I look back at his season last year. The guy really had like one tough quarter, and that was the first quarter of the Oklahoma game, right? Where there's an interception, that some could say it was a blown coverage, but the corner intercepts it. Then he gets the pick on the tip ball going in in the red area. But people forget in that game, he only threw 6 incompletions, so he really played efficient football for us last year. I thought he played great down the stretch, the Tech game, the Oklahoma State game, and I thought he played really well against Washington. There's a couple of unfortunate plays, but man, he played. He gave us a chance there at the end of the game to go win it. So I think he's poised for a great season, but the biggest thing we see is the leadership for sure.
All right, let's start talking about the quarterbacks, talking about the area of improvement for Quinn. And Quinn, he's got this team is his team because you had a lot of the proven commodities leave last year on the offensive side of the ball. At the leadership position at quarterbacks, a natural leadership position. But looking at Quinn, he's a guy that had the benefit of having great leadership around him his first 2 years, whether you're talking about Rojo, we talked about Jay Witt in his role, right? Both of those guys, not necessarily starters, but guys were respected on the team for their journey and for their contributions. So they're seen as leaders. JT Sanders was a really good leader on the team. So was Christian Jones. Now those guys are gone. Still got Kelvin Banks. Kelvin Banks is a really good leader on that team. Jake Majors, really good leader on that team. But because of all the new additions at the skill positions, Jay Brooks going, JT Sanders, 3 wide receivers drafted into the NFL. I think that's why you need more of the presence of Quinn Ewers around there because he is the one that get all these new, kind of new players, these new acquisitions, whether it be Golden or Bolden or Bond, Mari Nyblack, to get all these guys on the same page in that passing game. So they struggle with continuity and timing and precision and chemistry early on in the season. And I'm saying, it could happen. I don't anticipate it happening because I think they'll put in the work this offseason. If they do have some of those same issues that we saw early on in the spring game, which nobody cares about, nobody's panicking about, but they had timing issues in the spring game. Like Quinn and Bond looked off. Like they just didn't look like they had great timing. He had some pretty good timing with Jonte Cook, which makes sense because Cook has been here for a while. But if he doesn't have great chemistry and continuity with those new wide receivers, to me, that would indicate they didn't put in enough work in the offseason. The reason Sark is saying he's seeing the leadership shine through for Quinn Ewers in the offseason because I bet he is on those receivers' ass about it. We got to throw. Let's go. We got throwing sessions multiple times a day. We got one in the morning. We got one in the evening. You can't make the morning throwing session. Come meet me out in the evening. We got another throwing session, because that's what you got to do as a quarterback in the offseason, especially when you got all new weapons. Now they're veterans wherever they're coming from, but they didn't do it in this system here at Texas with this quarterback. So all of those different elements, like I said, the timing of it, the depth of the routes, where you want receivers, the leverage of the DB, and how they'll determine exactly where the ball placement is. All those little things, those can't be worked out during the season. It's got to be worked out in this off season right now, and it's the perfect time to do it. So I know I used to be best friends with a quarterback. They get the keys to the practice fields. They get the keys to the stadium. They can go throw anytime they want to. They can throw in the stadium on the lights. They can throw in the practice fields any time of the day or night. Like the Arch Manning probably has keys too. Back in my day, it was, the quarterback, the starting quarterback had kind of the keys to go, organize all of the offseason workouts with the players, especially the wide receivers. I'm sure that is still the case. So this will be on Quinn. So I'm happy that Sark is seeing his leadership shine through in the offseason, because I think that's about him holding those players accountable and holding his teammates accountable about how often they're getting together for throwing sessions. Quarterbacks are such kind of OCD freaks when it comes to throwing sessions. Like, quarterbacks won't go a day without throwing the ball a little bit. They don't. Every quarterback I know, it's like, let's go get a couple of tosses. Like, that will wake you up in the middle of the night, like, let's go get a couple of throws in at 4, 5 in the morning, just to kind of warm up the arm. Quarterbacks do not go a long time without throwing. They will throw every day, even if it's casually. Take wifey out in the back or take the kid. They will throw. It's just part of their DNA. Everyone that I've known, I've been close with a few of them. And so I know Quinn's of the same ilk, and he's throwing every damn day. And with those receivers now, there should be multiple sessions where he's getting together, got a couple of DBs out there just to give them some resistance so that they can learn, leverage and ball placement and the depth of routes. That's all Quinn. That's going to be all Quinn organizing that. So that's why you're starting to see that leadership shine through. Speaking of the wide receivers, Sark was asked about the new wide receivers they brought in. Here's Steve Sarkisian discussing that wide receiver group that they're bringing in and how it compares to last year's group.
Yeah, so just let's take a snapshot back at our team last year, right? And obviously we know what Xavier was for 3 years in our program, and the skill set and the playmaking and the explosive plays, the ability to take the ball the distance at any time, and the fear that he kind of struck into a defense, the dependability of a Jordan Whittington, third down, the critical plays, fourth down, the toughness he possessed, blocking, and then the addition of AD Mitchell last year. And AD really was brought in to, he was a great player, but also to take some of the pressure off of an Xavier, to where if you were going to double Xavier, what could this guy do to you in a one-on-one setting? And we also brought him in that the moment was never too big for him. The guy always made plays in the biggest games of his career, college football playoff games, national championship games, and that was exactly how he played for us last year as well. And so losing those 3 guys to the NFL is okay. How do you not necessarily replicate those guys, but how do you make sure that we're filling the voids that they're leaving? Okay, so if you look at Isaiah Bond and you look at the speed and playmaking ability he possessed at Alabama, but also the ability to make plays at critical moments. Mm-hmm. The famous fourth down catch at Auburn, that's an easy one to point to, but a huge catch in the Georgia game and the SEC championship game. So his ability to be in those moments and be comfortable in those moments, I think, was good for us. Matthew Golden, super tough, super reliable, great route runner, great hands. So when you start thinking Jordan Whittington, right, and now all of a sudden there's a similar guy with similar traits that way. And he's a guy that played really well against us last year. So we saw him for 2 touchdown catches. I was like, yeah, he's a problem.
I wasn't going to bring that up. That's just a little too sensitive. But yeah, they had a nice game against you guys.
And then a Silas Bolden, a guy with elite speed, who's I think had 22 touchdown catches now, or touchdowns in the last 3 years at Oregon State, a veteran player who can take the ball the distance, not only as a receiver, but as a returner. And Matthew Golden, great kickoff returner as well. So we were looking for versatility and experience in those guys. And I think we found that. We've been very impressed with what they've brought. But we also have some young players that I'm looking forward to as well. And whether it's a DeAndre Moore, a Jonte Cook, a Ryan Niblett, the addition of Ryan Wingo, a kid who's been very impressive as a young player for us. But that leads itself to, I don't want to go into this season just relying on 3 receivers because I don't think you can do that over a 16, 17 game season. So we're gonna have to adjust some things there on kind of how we rotate, how we play our players, and probably a few more guys getting a few more opportunities.
All right, there you go. Start talking about that wide receiver group, and it's interesting how he talked about them all playing different roles, and we've described that too here on this show. With JT Sanders was kind of your clutch guy in certain money downs, right? Money downs, third downs, fourth downs. He was big. Your red zone target, your man beater was AD Mitchell, and your go-to wide receiver that was obviously X-Man, and the junkyard dog of the group. Right, the one that was big into blocking and some of the dirty work on some of those screens, those perimeter screens, that was Jay Witt. So, it seems like he liked that group and he liked the roles that everybody played there, and maybe is trying to replicate that, or at least that's what he implied there during that cut. All right, let's hear from Sark talking about the DBs. That's been a big topic of conversation. The defensive backs at Texas and how that's been a liability for Texas. Pass defense has since Sark has been on campus. Sark has not complained about the DBs, so he didn't complain about the DBs and pass defense after playing Washington. He didn't after the spring game, after they gave up a lot of big plays, chunk yards plays, and deep balls in the spring game. Didn't say pass defense was one of the issues he was concerned about. We talked about all the theories as to why that may be. Maybe it's the Johnny Nansen influence. Maybe because now they have the talent they want in the secondary after, last year having, Derek Williams and Malik Muhammad, 2 freshmen, ascend, and now bringing in Makuba. So maybe they just trust the pieces they have more. But here's Sark talking about, and I think very optimistically and complimentary of his defensive backfield.
Well, I'm excited about the group. I think to your point, to watch the growth of a Manny Muhammad last season, to watch the growth of a Derek Williams last season, both true freshmen that played a significant amount of time for us, just how far they've come now. Jahdae Barron and the mainstay that he was for us the last 2 years, and getting him back to 100% healthy is a fantastic player for us.
He's still pretty confident, Jahdae?
Yeah, he's a little bit confident. But I'll tell you what, one guy that's back to playing great football for us right now that was actually a starter for us as a true freshman 2 years ago, had a knee injury, and last season was tough on him, but had a great spring, is Jalen Gilbo.
Yeah.
And so where he's at. And then you look at what we're able to do recruiting wise and what we're able to do in the portal to go get an Andrew Makuba, a 3-year starter from Clemson, to come back home to Austin, has been a great addition at safety for us. To go get a Javion Cole transfer from San Jose State, to watch the growth of a Gavin Holmes who came to us last year from Wake Forest, not to mention some of the high-level recruits we have, whether it's a Kobe Black, a Wardell Mack, Xavier Filsamy, a Jordan Johnson-Rubel, and then you have kind of the glue back there in Michael Taft. So we've got probably, in my opinion, this is probably the most talented and deepest secondary that we've had in our time here. And I'm looking forward to watching these guys, because I think the continuity of the coaching staff, them having the same coaches now going into year 4, has been helpful. The communication's better. But I think on the flip side of that, we can help those guys. And I think we did address it with the pass rush. Going and getting a Trey Moore from a UTSA, who's a legit pass rusher, going and signing Colin Simmons, who's a legit pass rusher, the development of an Ethan Burke and a Baron Sorrell. Those guys make the passing game a lot more difficult, and their ability to get to the quarterback. And so I do think we've addressed that in a way where we feel really confident in that, man, if we can force people to throw it, that we're gonna create more opportunities for ourselves for turnovers, sacks, fumbles, interceptions, because we're a little better in the pass rush and we're a little better in the coverage end, back end.
The thing I took from that quote from Sark was that Jalen Gilbo seems to be standing out. Jalen Gilbo can earn the trust of the coaches at that nickel spot. That means if they need to, and maybe they won't need to, if Javion Cole and Gavin Holmes aren't working out opposite Malik Muhammad at that corner spot, you can always move Jahdae Barron out there. If you trust him more at nickel than you trust them at the cornerback spot opposite Malik Muhammad. So at least they'll give you options. But either way, Jalen Gilbo getting mentioned is big for them, because if he steps up, then you have another trustworthy rotational piece along with Taft. Because I think your frontline starters at safety are going to be Makuba and Derek Williams when it's all said and done. Not maybe at the beginning, but when it's all said and done. And then you got Taft Daddy who can rotate in, and obviously Sark loves him some Taft Daddy. Mentioned him too. Now you got Jalen Gilbo you can rotate in, because I like the frontline starters. I like Muhammad. I like Jahdae Barron. I like Makuba. Like Derek Williams a lot too. So your frontline starters are great. Not sure about Gavin Holmes. Not sure about Javion Cole at this level because we don't know enough yet. But if the coach likes Jalen Gilbo, then maybe Jalen Gilbo you're throwing there. I like Taft Daddy a lot. So I think if you get more trustworthy rotational pieces in there, I think the secondary can take that leap potentially this year. The D-line is going to be a big part of that, as Sark mentioned, especially the D-tackle position. Losing T'Vondre Sweat, losing Byron Murphy. How do you replace those guys? Here's Steve Sarkisian discussing his D-tackles.
Yeah, I think one thing that was interesting about that, people forget that our first 2 years here, Byron Murphy and T'Vondre Sweat never started a game, right? It was Keandre Coburn and Moro Ojimo. And then those two guys got drafted, and then in came Murphy and Sweat, and talk about two guys seizing the opportunity last year of playing a significant snaps and becoming starters and doing those things, that it's kind of ready for that next wave. I mean, I couldn't be more excited than I am about Alfred Collins. I think this guy's poised for a great senior season. I love the experience that a Vernon Broughton brings to us. But to your point, I also love where some of these younger players are at, whether it's an Aaron Bryant, a Jere Bledsoe. We signed a couple really nice players in Alex January, Melvin Hills, that we're looking forward to them. But I go back to, man, we got to have enough depth for what the physicality that the SEC is going to pose us with. And that's how you go and you sign 3 veteran players out of the portal. And we were able to do that this fall, and getting Bill Norton and Tia Savea from Arizona, guys who've played a lot of football there, big physical players, and then getting a Jermaine Lele from Louisville. Now we've kind of got a veteran group who's played a lot of football at a high level on successful teams and successful defenses, but also knowing I've got some young players that are going to have opportunities to step in. And so, again, I'm thinking big picture on a lot of this stuff. I'm thinking about, when you're playing in December and January and having to sustain, when injuries occur, because football is the sport that it is. And to think that we're just going to come out of this thing unscathed is probably unrealistic. And so I want to make sure that I'm putting our team in the best position to persevere and to be at its best when our best is needed, Thanksgiving weekend and beyond.
All right, let's start talking about his D tackles with Greg McElroy of Always College Football. We come back. We'll push Raj rant to the other side. I'll tell you why I am ranting against the new EA Sports College Football video game. EA Sports' motto is "It's in the game," but it's not in the game. We'll discuss it when we come back right here on the Rodcast, featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Davis coming back on the horn.
Hey guys, I want to tell you about our friends at Texan Windows. They're your new and replacement window experts here in Central Texas. You can discover affordable windows and sliding glass doors. If you're looking to enhance the curb appeal of your home, maybe new color, operation of the windows, change those up, maybe put in some beautiful picture windows, just remove the grids on your glass or add grids, whatever fits your style better. They have that and it can hook you up at Texan Windows. But it's not just about the looks.
Not just about the looks at all. There are so many advantages to reaching out to our friends at Texan Windows to get those new windows. And I'm a baller on the budget, so I appreciate saving every penny that I can. And new windows from Texan Windows, replacement windows can help with energy efficiency. And all windows come with argon-filled double-pane low-E glass. That's a fancy way of saying that during those hot Texas summer days, those triple digits approaching, that it'll keep your house cool during those hot Texas summer days, but also keep your house really warm during the winter months as well. So replacement windows will help with energy efficiency, which will save you money on your annual energy bills. And think about what you could do with all that extra cash. Also, if you are a ball on the budget like me, you'll appreciate not only can you save money, but also you can help safeguard your family and your biggest investment, which is your home. Older windows, oftentimes really tough to childproof. I have an 8-month-old in the house with childproof and everything, and they're not up on the latest safety protocols. They don't have the latest technological advancements in safety, but my friends at Texan Windows can help you with that so that you can safeguard your family with new windows from Texan Windows, but also your home as well. So my man Patrick will give you all the details on how you can reach out to Texan Windows.
Get started at TexanWindows.com or call 855-55-TEXAN to get a hassle-free estimate by email or over the phone. You can stop by the showroom in Buda or Fort Worth to check out their in-stock windows. And now is a great time to go get your new windows and see what they can do for you at Texan Windows. Because for the month of June through July 4th, that's coming up in 1 week, when you make the purchase of 10 replacement windows, you'll be eligible to receive a free Blackstone grill. New windows, new grill. Get yourself ready for summer with Texan Windows. It's TexanWindows.com. Texan Windows, your Central Texas window experts.
All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Time to get into Rod's rant of the day. This one will be a relatively quick one. I just got a little gripe with EA Sports. So EA Sports, they're releasing some of the details about the new college football video game. I think yesterday, early this week, they introduced the most dominant home field advantages are the toughest places to play in the country based on their formula algorithm. So details are trickling out about the video game before it's actually released to the masses. And one of the details that's been revealed by The Athletic, Chris Vanini, says Horns Down has not been included in the EA college football video game. It says he said, quote, "I've been told Horns Down will not be in a video game, only hand signals for your own team." And I gotta tell you, I think this is a mistake, a huge mistake. First of all, you talk about your whole pitch for the video game is how realistic it is, and we're basing it on everything that happens in college football. We're trying to get the most realistic, all right, replica that we can of college football translate to the video game, and you're not going to have the horns down in it. You're seeing the horns down is more prevalent than ever, especially since Texas going into the SEC. You see it more than you've ever seen it before. You're about to rekindle the rivalry with the Aggies. You're going to see it more than you've ever seen it. You're going to see it, of course, with the Sooners. But now we've even recognized you see the horns down even when the Longhorns aren't playing a team in a specific sport. You see it. It's basically the college football version of the middle finger these days. People just throw it for any reason at all. And I'm all for it. I'm all for it because it is the most powerful, arguably the most profitable form of free media in the country today in regards to sports, any sports program or organization. Whenever you see that horns down, you know immediately your mind makes the connection to the Longhorns automatically. And we know how powerful free media can be. Look at what Chris Del Conte did to steal headlines and to steal all of the free media and all of the mojo from the Aggies when they had the announcement they were firing David Pierce, and then the salacious rumors they were going to go after Coach Slosh, and then the reality and they actually were going to go after Coach Slosh and get Coach Slosh. I mean, you cannot put a price on or quantify the amount of free media that Texas got in the last 72 hours. As we talked about, there hasn't been a time that I can remember on social media, period, in the last 10, 15 years that I've been covering Texas where they were this engaged and active on social media as they were with the Schloss-Schnagel incident. So free media, I think CDC understands the power of free media and understands how to manipulate it and weaponize it. And I think Texas and their brand also understand this. So I hope and pray that this is not coming from the Texas side, that Texas didn't, petition them to take the horns down. I hope we don't find that out later because I don't think they do, because I think they understand how powerful that brand is, even when that brand is flipped upside down. All right, to obviously disrespect it, it still is a powerful brand because everybody knows what it is. So the horns down isn't an insult. On the contrary, it's quite complimentary. Like I said, it's basically, it's free headspace in your opponents and rivals' heads, and it's one of the most effective forms of free media out there. I always bring up the presidential election when Donald Trump was going, obviously going up against Hillary Clinton, and they revealed the free media numbers, and Trump had like $6 billion in free media, and I want to say that Hillary had like half that. She had like 2.8, damn near $3 billion in free media. And some people say, well, all publicity is not good publicity. Yes, but some people believe the opposite. And you could make the claim that it worked well for President Trump in that situation. I always go back to the Game of Thrones example where there was a coffee cup left in the Game of Thrones set. It's a coffee cup left there. It wasn't even a Starbucks cup, but because coffee cups in our head are synonymous with the biggest coffee brand in this country, which is Starbucks. Starbucks got $2.3 billion in free media, all because somebody made a mistake and left a coffee cup in a scene of Game of Thrones, the most popular show at the time, and everybody started making Starbucks references on Twitter and social media, when in fact it wasn't even a Starbucks cup. The guy came out and was like, it wasn't even our cup, but we appreciate the $2 billion in free media of everybody discussing Starbucks for 2-3 straight days. Free media, man, you literally can't put a price. You can put a value on it, but it's free. But it's all about how you wield your power and your brand. And the horns down, man, I'm disappointed because Texas is gonna miss out on a whole lot of free media.
Yeah, I feel like somebody was trying to be nice and didn't realize that we don't care.
Yeah, they were trying to be respectful, and it's like, or
not even being respectful. I can imagine this is the conversation in the room. Oh, we got to take that out because those Longhorns will come after us. We're like, we don't care. We don't care.
Yeah, but have you been paying attention?
You got to blame us for it. You got to blame us for it, even though we didn't say nothing.
You're right, because it happened in the Big 12.
Yeah,
the Big 12 they started penalizing teams for doing the horns down, and Longhorn fans were like, we don't care. That did not come from us. We are not the ones. And I think that ultimately that was something from the Mac Brown era. I think it mattered to Mac at one point.
Yeah.
Mac made a big deal out of it because basically Mac was like, "Hold on, teams can do the horns down, but when we do their hand symbol," because I think one of the Texas players got penalized by doing, I won't say it was Texas Tech maybe, when they did the Texas Tech hand symbol. But anyway, Mac was actually someone who he used his platform to talk about the horns down. Nobody else really cared. But after that, it's not been a big deal at all. So they're not putting it in the video game, which makes your video game less realistic. Because you're gonna go to Aggie Land, play at Cal Field. You won't go to Norman, but you'll play the Sooners in the Texas OU game. Maybe in the game you can go to Norman if you're Texas. I don't know. I'm sure you can.
Oh, that's gross.
I know, but I'm just saying, like, you to not see the horns down symbol though, that's not even realistic.
No.
Like, how can you make that environment and not have the horns down be a part of it?
I mean,
crazy.
Now we do say it's realistic, but you also can go in there and take, Louisiana Lafayette to a national championship. So,
hey, if you want to,
there's some things in that game you can make. Plus, everyone's going to create Arch Manning and make him transfer. So,
well, they can't down the game.
No, they're going to create him. They're going to create him.
You're right.
Yeah,
they could. Yeah, but then he won't be. Yeah, I guess you could try to make him really good, that kind of stuff. But yeah, so I don't know. I think they should have. I don't know who decided that, but that was a bad move. That was an L. That's one loss, I think, for the new video game. All right. Oh, you know what? I wanted to play this. Do we have this Matt Moscano sound that we can play? Because the reports are basically that this, and I believe my man Westcott Ebert, he coined the term exodus, like the exodus that's happening because you have 11 players now in the transfer portal, and a lot of people believe like half of those guys could be just transferring right on over to Texas, which is crazy. I mean, think about those guys were doing the horns down, and now they're going to cut to Texas with the horns up. It's fantastic. You can't beat it. But do we have this rant from Matt Moscano? Yes. So he works for a radio station down in Baton Rouge. And apparently, so he's plugged into the SEC world. And he was one of the people on social media implying and saying that, Texas is going after Schloss and this thing is realistic and could happen. And he was mocked and ridiculed by Aggie fans and some of the SEC fans alike. So after it went down, he went off. But listen to one thing he says when he goes off. So he's obviously pretty in if he was saying Schloss was going to take the job and Texas was going to go after him. But listen to the little nugget that he drops on if Texas didn't get Schloss, who they were going after. I see my man Patrick probably heard this too. Here it is. Here's Matt Moscano.
But all y'all spent the last 24 hours flooding my Twitter mentions, calling me names, saying I was wrong, saying I was stupid, saying I was a drug head, saying I look like a thumb, which I kind of do. But all y'all were just dead wrong. Y'all couldn't see through your own blind loyalty, and you took shots at me when I was trying to tell you the damn story. Yeah, I knew Schlossnagle was taking that damn job. I heard the terms of the contract and the terms for his assistants. And if he got cold feet, they were going to hire Skip Johnson from Oklahoma. But guess what? They got across the finish line because apparently Jim Schlossnagle couldn't stand you anymore. You milkman overall wearing weirdos couldn't stand you anymore. So I'd rather go to a place with a worse roster, with worse facilities that ain't been relevant really here lately. I'm leaving a good roster, a place where they're building me turn that up louder, please. They're building me a $90 million stadium. I got a good roster. I just played for a national championship. I'm going to go to a turf field in the middle of Texas at an old ballpark. I'm going to go there just to get away from you people. That's what Jim Schlossnagle just said. Because money ain't no issue. Ain't that compared to whatever Texas could. That was an open hand slap across the face.
He said they would have to Skip Johnson if they didn't get Schloss.
They were taking they're taking one of their rivals.
That's what I'm like. Hold up. That's the gangster thing. I'm like, hold up. CDC, you're just gonna if you didn't get the rival coach from the Aggies, you're gonna go after the Sooner coach. Man, this dude, he is a habitual line stepper, and I'm here for it. Everyone CDC knows how to troll a fan base. Goodness. That is, like I said, he's on some Kaiser Sose stuff these days.
Hey, so CDC, I got one more thing for you to do before the big party on Sunday.
Man,
if you could just up that bag for Arthur Kaluma for the men's basketball team.
Let's do that.
He's a transfer. He is choosing between Texas and SMU. All reports are SMU has a much bigger bag, or at least a bigger bag. I won't say much bigger, but a bigger bag. SMU's got money. So he has to decide between if he wants to play for a championship team or a a tournament team, let's say a tournament team, or go to SMU where it's not as much of a tournament team. What he wants to decide, just say, hey, man, maybe help CDC out and get him a little boost up that the NIL for Kaluma a little bit. We've already lost out on a couple guys in the transfer portal because the NIL wasn't there for men's basketball. So I'm just saying. I know you're going to need it. You're going to need it in baseball too, because baseball is going to need some for these Aggies coming over. But
they got plenty of money over there. As the late great Reverend Combs said, they got more money than anybody except the Catholic Church. They got a lot of money over there. But how good would that make this team if they can get Kaluma though?
It would be a huge pickup. This is a guy that was at the draft combine and pulled out because he just decided to come back for another year. But a really good player, 3-point shooter, could be a wing. It would be a starter for us, definitely. There'll be a big addition to add another key starter that you are confident in being a starter for Texas going into next year.
All right, come on, Rodney Terry, BMDs, big money boosters and donors. Don't let SMU outspend you for a player, man. Don't
Texas
let that.
Tech already did it once. Texas already out. Tech already outspent us for a player. Yeah. SMU is going to outspend us for a player. I get. You don't want to overpay for guys, but it's kind of what the market is right now.
That's exactly what it is. All right, good stuff there. We come back, we'll get into who said that. That's when Patrick plays bits of audio from the sports world, sometimes beyond, and then based on the context clues or based on the familiarity of the voice, hopefully you can recall and identify who said that. We'll get into that right when we come back, right here on the Rodcast, featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers coming back on the horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast, last segment of the show. New theme Thursday. That's when my co-host, the Idealionaire, comes up with creative themes, and then based on the selections that are played, they are all referencing that theme, or they are celebrating that theme in some way. And the new theme for New Theme Thursday today is summertime. It is officially upon us, because you can feel it with the triple digits fast approaching. But because of the summertime temperatures that are approaching, my man Patrick wants to celebrate that with the new theme of the day. So we appreciate him there. And all the songs reference or celebrate summertime. Also, go check out the topic for the big fat poll today. That's already up there on the X account, the Horn ATX on X. And he wants to know, because of the NBA draft second round, which will be airing, I was going to say tonight, but today,
3 p.m.
in like the afternoon. Who is the best second round pick of all time, in your opinion? Best second round pick of all time. Yeah, I think Jokic is going to win this thing. Right now he's at 52%, but I'd say Manu's making it interesting. He's at 36%.
He's going
so 88% of your votes have
come on, Spurs Twitter. Go get Manu up there.
Yeah, no, it was close to her, but Jokic is far and away. In terms of individual accolades.
He's won 2 MVPs.
Yeah.
I get it.
And he's got a title. And he's got a title. Yeah.
He don't got 3.
Yeah, no, it's true.
Sorry.
But he's Money's never been MVP candidate, and Jokic is. I mean, the second round to find a guy that just won multiple MVPs in the second round. Is anybody everyone? What's the other MVP winners in the second round?
I mean, it's just Jokic.
It's just
Jokic.
Okay, there you go. That's how we're at. It's like, no, it's just him. All time, it's just him. All right, there you go. Good stuff there. Okay, let's get into Who Said That. That's when Patrick plays pieces of audio, sometimes from the sports world, sometimes beyond the sports world. And based on the context clues or familiarity of the voice, hopefully we can recall and identify who said that.
Honestly, I feel like this is a serious business. And I don't feel like there would be like a thought of I'm just drafting this kid just because of I'm gonna get his dad. Like I don't think a GM would really allow that. So yeah, I've never really thought about like I think I've put in the work and I'd get drafted because of the person, not only the player but the person that I am.
Oh, that was Bronny James. Big day for Bronny James because he's either gonna. Okay, so what's the more interesting scenario here, Patrick? That he gets drafted by the Lakers, that he gets drafted by another team, or your scenario. You probably have
the most interesting one is he doesn't get drafted. It's by far the most interesting one because still he just signed with the Lakers afterwards. But the whole thing of what they've said is that that LeBron really wants to see his son get his name called at the draft. Mm-hmm. And so if you take that away to draft another random guy at 55,
yeah,
because you want size or something else like that, and you don't, that's it. That would be surprising. That would be the most surprising one.
If the Lakers
someone takes him at 52 because they realize the Lakers want him and they think they can probably extort a second-round pick out of him, that would be surprising. If someone takes him and says, well, we'll see what he can do. We know, someone that, is friends with his dad or somebody like that. I could believe that, but I still think it would be like 45 to 55. It'd be in that range. I think it would be second. There's still guys like Johnny Furphy's still available. And I know he looks like he's 12. He was a player that you saw like peaks of at Kansas. It was a really good player. He's still available in the second round. There's guys that you feel can be good players still available in this draft. So I wouldn't see it happening early in the second round, but then especially somebody that has like 2 second rounders or something, just being like, yeah, screw it. We could probably get a second rounder out of the Lakers for this. So we'll take him.
Yeah. No, it's a good point. I can't wait. I mean, that is the drama, I think, for the second round is where's Bronny going to go? That'll be the big story. Even more interesting if the Lakers pass up on him and somebody else takes him. So we'll see what the drama is surrounding Bronny. We'll talk about that tomorrow. Also talk more about the NBA draft tomorrow as well on the show. We'll also, I'm sure, we'll get into some more discussion about potential transfers coming from Aggieland to Longhorn Country because there are like 7 to 11 of them in the portal. A lot of people believe that some of the best players could be following Schloss right here to Texas. So we may have an update on that as well as early as tomorrow. Thank you, Patrick, for everything you do, man. You are the real MVP. Thank you guys out there for listening. Remember, the revolution will not be televised, but we're talking about it right here on the Rodcast. Remember also that we love you guys. We mean that. Take care of yourselves, but also take care of each other. Until tomorrow, same time, same place. Hook 'em and peace.